Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
You're listening to Jimmy Church Fade to Black.
Turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Hey, how you doing? All right, Fade to Black. Man, I'm all pumped up tonight. Hung out on Twitter for the last 45 minutes with all of you Fadernauts. Didn't get a chance to jump over to Spreaker. It's already on its way. Hello to everybody listening. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Today is Wednesday, February 25th, 56 days into the new year, 309 days left. As always, we are live from the truthfunders.com studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. Truth Funders, do you have a book, an expedition, an invention, or a paranormal documentary you need to get funded? Go to truthfunders.com. Truth Funders, the number one source of backing your project into the fringe. For KJCR and the Game Changer Network, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. Welcome to everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, east and west, north and south, far and near. Welcome. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Derrel Sims, the alien hunter, will be joining us live from Dallas, Texas. It's going to be an all-Texas night tonight. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world fighting the good fight for us. Without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us. They are defending our right to freedom of speech. Think about that. Said it last night, it's not about imperialism, military might. Oh no. And if that's what you think, before you drop that email, go to North Korea. Go hang out. Check out your freedoms. The fake food. All right. Man, I'm just pumped up. So fired up. I'm still recovering from Laura Eisenhower last night. Wow, what a show. Seriously. Great show. Great show. Thanks for everybody that has supported us through the podcast. If you do so and you need it, just go to jimmychurchradio.com. Click on the podcast page, go subscribe. It's updated every single day. Wherever you are, there it is, the podcast. Faders.org. Get your Faders gear. It was just tweeted out. Check out the cool stuff. I don't even have, I got to pull strings with Method. I've got to get my Fader mug. Is that what we're calling it? Fader mug? Did I just say Fader mug? Oh man, I wonder if that's what Method is calling it on the site. The Fader mug. Yeah. All right. Faders.org. www.faders.org. I haven't been able to hang out in Fader Cinema the last couple of weeks. We had a couple of things that happened here with the family. And very tragically, and we've been dealing with that. Wowo is out again tonight with the family. So it's just me and Hilton tonight manning the ship here. So there you go. But but I will be in Fader Cinema this Saturday. Okay, we'll hang out. And what is Fader Cinema? It's where all of us Fadernauts, I guess I'm a Fadernaut. Do I count? Am I a Fadernaut? I don't know. No, I can't be. I can't be a Fadernaut. I guess I could be captain. Can I do that? Is that okay with everybody? But anyway, us Fadernauts hang out. We have a really cool chat room over at faders.org where we watch a film and we hang out and we tear it apart. That's what we do. We watch Alien Prawn is what we do. The Studio Dome SD1 promo is still going on. The Studio Dome SD1 is a Bluetooth speaker that, yes, I am holding it right here in my hand. I have to hold it in my hand as I talk about it. You know, it's got all these switches and buttons on it around the bottom, and it's heavy. It's hefty for as small as it's not small. It's kind of medium. It could almost fit in your pocket. But it is certainly good for defending off zombies. You could really conk somebody out with this guy. But it's a Bluetooth speaker, and instead of listening to this show on your iPhone speaker, your Android speaker, your tablet speaker, your laptop speaker, your whatever, get one of these. It's voice activated. You can use it anywhere. It has a USB antenna. It's got a really cool carry bag with it, too, as well. Nice little gift box setup. And right now, we've got a promo going for the Fadernauts. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome SD1 banner that's right there. It's right below the player as you're listening to this show. Go and click on it, enter the promo code Jimmy, Jimmy, and get $40 off. It's got a list price of $99.99. You're going to get it for $59.99 and free shipping. And it helps support the show. That's what you want to do. Support the show. All right? We try to do everything for free here. You know that. Free broadcast, free stream, free this, free that. Everything's free. That's what we do. Okay, so, help support the show. Okay? All right. Contact in the Desert. Yes, tomorrow night. You're going to want to enter tonight because tomorrow night we will be announcing our first round of winners. Contact in the Desert is May 29th through the 31st in Joshua Tree, California. It is a weekend of exploration into extraterrestrial life, ancient aliens, human origins, crop circles, UFO sightings, anti-gravity machines, contact experience, all of that stuff that you need to know about. The lineup is extraordinary. Listen to this. George Norrie, Giorgio Tsoukalos, Eric Von Daniken, Edgar Mitchell, Story Musgrave, Michael Tellinger, Linda Moulton Howe, Jim Mars, Nick Pope, John Anthony West, Stanton Friedman, Richard Dolan, Jason Martell, Daniel Sheehan, James Gilliland, Travis Walton, Laura Eisenhower, Grant Cameron, Mike Barra, Nick Redfern, Yvonne Smith, Donald Schmidt, Lynn Katai, Kathleen Martin, Peter Lavenda. Peter Lavenda is going to be there. That's worth the price of admission right there. Jesse Marcel, William Brown, who was on the show this week, Thomas Reed, Alejandro Rojas, Joel Garbone, Patty Greer, Celeste Yarnell is going to be there. Our good friend Robert Perala, Marshall Clarfield, Steve Murillo. Yes, Murillo's going to be there hanging out once again. You really want to go. Barbara Harris, Byron Belitzos. What kind of lineup? It's crazy, all in one place. So go to jimmychurchradio.com, click, go and enter the contest. You are going to want to be there. I say it every night on the show. Last year, we did it right. This year, we're going to be broadcasting live. You're going to want to see this show. How does it go down? Really? You're going to be able to see? Yeah, think about that. Have you ever been in a radio studio anywhere in the country and watched a show go down? No, you haven't. I know you haven't. So come check it out. You're going to see us do the countdown. We're going to have 200 or 300 people there. Big hall. And we're going to have 12, maybe 14 if we can squeeze everybody in. We're going to do 2 or 3 people each segment, and think about that. And then after the broadcast, you can hang out with us, meet everybody, little meet and greet action, and then we're going to go down the street as soon as we pack up. We're going to go down the street to I think it's called the Joshua Tree Saloon that we, last year, man, we closed that joint. And a little karaoke, little line dancing. Oh, yeah, it's going to be on. And tables full of food. It's going to be great. So go and enter the contest. Go. I want to really announce your name. Think about that. Okay? All right. We made the Power 50 list, by the way, for TalkStream Live last year. We came in at number 38. And we got the banner today, the little award. And it's up on the website. If you haven't seen it, Method put it at the bottom of the page. So go to jimmychurchradio.com, scroll down. There it is. The TalkStream Live Power 50 list. Clyde Lewis made the list. George Nori made the list. And we were the only fringe guys, the only overnight talk guys that made that list. It is indeed an honor. Number 38 blows my mind, but it's there. You should go check it out. It warms my heart. That award is on some pretty significant talk show host pages now. And to see it there, oh, man. So, yeah, we made the list, and we got it, and it is up. We have so many ways to listen to the show now. We have TalkStream Live, of course. Just click on TalkStream Live at jimmychurchradio.com. If you're already listening to the show right now, there you go. But it's another alternative, TalkStream Live. Also, there's a dial-in number 2. If you ever have any issues with the stream and you have unlimited minutes on your phone, just dial in. It's free. You can just dial in on your phone, and there you go. Wherever you are, there it is. It's free. No charge for it. And you can listen to the show. And like I said, if you have any streaming issues or any downloading issues, you can just dial in that number that is there. All right. Now, let's see. Let me look at the clock. Okay, we're doing pretty good here. Today, let's get the show cracking. I'm all fired up. Today, musician John Doe is 60 years old. And if you don't know who John Doe is, it means you're probably not from Los Angeles. But he co-founded X, the band X. And that he would make the list just from that alone right there. But also he's an actor. That's right. John Doe played Jeff Parker in the series Roswell. Did you know that? If you didn't, seriously, Jeff Parker is John Doe. Dude can act. And of course I knew that. That's why he's on the list. Also today, comedian Carrot Top. He made the list. Now, how could Carrot Top make the list? Anybody that goes from ugly to worse with plastic surgery like that, I hats off to you, brother. And he's also like the richest man in Las Vegas. Think about it. Carrot Top is 50. Our dead guy's birthday today, moment of silence, is Beatle George Harrison, 1943 to 2001. A couple of things that you may not have known about George. Most of their albums were all about Lennon and McCartney and songwriting. But most of their albums also included at least one song that Harrison wrote, including songs like My Guitar Gently Weeps and Here Comes the Sun. And he also wrote Something, which became the Beatles' second most covered song. Harrison was not only a great guitar player, but he was a great songsmith. He died on November 29th, 2001, at the age of 58 from lung cancer. He was cremated right here in Hollywood at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery on Santa Monica Boulevard. His ashes were scattered in the Ganges and Yamuna rivers near Varanasi, India, because he was Hindu. And that was to the Hindu tradition. There you go. Oh, look at that. There's our There's our Power 50 logo. Somebody just tweeted it. You can follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do, at JChurchRadio. All the links are there, wherever you're listening to us from. Go and follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow us on TweetDeck, where we have the sandbox. It is hashtag F2B. Quick email about the show from last night that came in from Marilyn in Houston, and she says, OMG, my head is spinning. You did a great job reining her in, Jimmy. I envy your time with her at Contact in the Desert. I wish I could be there, but sadly, I have no cash. I love you much, my brother. We love you too, Marilyn, and you're absolutely right. Our head was spinning too. It was a great night with Laura Eisenhower. Now, we have plenty of people coming to Contact in the Desert from Houston or from Texas. So, hitch a ride, Marilyn. What if you win tickets? What if you win a ticket? You win a ticket, Space Boy and Sherilyn will come and pick you up. I promise. Ain't that right? Huh? Ain't that right, Space Boy? Will you go and pick up Marilyn? You would do that if she won. Marilyn, did you enter? I hope you did. Tonight, Derrel Sims live from Dallas, Texas. This is Fade to Black, only on the Game Changer Network. Tune in, TalkStream Live, Spreaker. It's all good. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, we're back. This is Fade to Black. Just as Bill Riley was trying to move on from a dispute over his war stories, the Fox News host has some more questions to answer. Now, today, this time, the scrutiny is being directed at an account of his investigation into John F. Kennedy's assassination. O'Reilly's telling of it has gone like this. In 1977, a Russian-born George Mohranschild, who knew Lee Harvey Oswald, had been contacted by congressional investigators. O'Reilly, a reporter for a Dallas TV station, had tracked him down in Palm Beach and had arrived at the door to his daughter's home just as he shot himself. O'Reilly shared that account in his book, Killing Kennedy, and has repeated it on Fox News. And I'm quoting here. He says, As the reporter knocked on the door of his daughter's home, he heard the shotgun blast that marked the suicide of the Russian, assuring that his relationship with Lee Harvey Oswald would never be understood, end quote. O'Reilly wrote in his book. By the way, that reporter's name is Bill O'Reilly. But now records show that O'Reilly was in Dallas, Texas, not Miami, on the day of the suicide. The latest round of scrutiny is over, and as if that wasn't enough. Now, it's about if he witnessed the murder of nuns in El Salvador. Media Matters produced 2 clips of O'Reilly talking about the murders during a 2012 broadcast of The O'Reilly Factor, which he recalled describing the atrocity to his mother. And I'm quoting here. He said, "When I would tell her, hey, Mom, I was in El Salvador and I saw the nuns get shot in the back of the head, she almost couldn't process it," O'Reilly said. She couldn't process it, you know? Well, now he left out the detail of whether he was even in El Salvador at the time. In a 2009 interview, he said that he arrived in the country right after the murder of the nuns. O'Reilly is in some serious hot water. NASA's Dawn spacecraft, I saw this and it's on our Facebook page. NASA's Dawn spacecraft is getting sharper views of the mysterious bright spot on the dwarf planet Ceres as the probe prepares to go into orbit. And it turns out that the spot is actually 2 spots. I posted today, it looks like the Twin Cities. Oh, yeah. Go and check this out. I'm wondering if they're saying that it's light reflecting off of ice, possibly. But can ice reflect light from that distance? Could the spots be patches of ice, or is it a couple of cities? That's what it looks like to me. The newly released pictures were taken on February 19th when the refrigerator-sized spacecraft was nearly 29,000 miles away from Ceres. The Dawn probe, which was launched in 2007, spent the first part of its mission studying the asteroid Vesta, is due to go into orbit around Ceres on March 6th. I cannot wait. It's going to get 232 miles from Ceres. That's right. Earlier this week, I'm not making this up. Earlier this week, the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF, conducted a training exercise for its Air Force cyber unit, the OFEC, which means Horizon. The training exercise was based on a scenario in which the world is under attack by alien invaders, and the IDF tech forces are faced with the challenge of sabotaging the advanced technological systems of attacking alien spacecraft. Although Lieutenant Colonel Mayer, the commander of the engineering unit of the IDF website, said the scenario was designed to appeal to the cultural proclivities of its young members. The IDF might have overlooked the fact of conspiracy theorists would likely interpret the unusual training exercise by the military of the country allied with the West as yet another incident of unwitting acknowledgement of UFO and alien threats. Yes. I don't know what to make of that. The United States is deeply concerned about North Korea's nuclear advances. A senior U.S. official said on Tuesday after a U.S. Research Institute predicted Pyongyang could possess as many as 100 nuclear weapons within 5 years. Sung Kim, a U.S. Special Representative for North Korea policy, told a Washington seminar he could not comment on findings presented earlier by experts at the U.S. Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies because he has not seen the report and U.S. government assessments were classified. Experts at the U.S. Korea Institute presented 3 scenarios for North Korea's future nuclear stockpile, which they estimated currently amount to 10 to 16 weapons. In the first, assuming minimal technological improvements, the stockpile was expected to grow to 20 weapons by 2020. In a second, It could grow to 50, and advances in miniaturization would allow North Korea to mount warheads on a new generation of intermediate and shorter-range ballistic missiles. Here's really big news for all of you chocolate lovers like myself. Hershey's chocolate kisses and chocolate bars will no longer be made with artificial ingredients. The premier American chocolate company will instead strive towards, and I'm quoting, simplicity and transparency, meaning that Hershey is taking the junk out of their chocolate. The phrase artificial flavor on your package of Hershey's Kisses will be replaced by the words natural flavor. And by the end of 2015, their chocolate bars and kisses will no longer contain GMO sugar or soy lecithin. The new list of ingredients on the package of Hershey's chocolate ingredients will contain recognizable components like sugar, milk, chocolate, cocoa butter, and milk fat. Hershey will be taking out lactose, other emulsifiers, and vanillin. Have you ever had Mexican Coca-Cola, by the way? Natural sugar. It's amazing. You'll never drink American Coke again. I promise. If you have access to buying Coke in the glass bottles from Mexico, get it. It will change your life. At any given time, around 7,000 aircraft are flying over the United States. For the past 40 years, the same computer system has controlled all that high-altitude traffic, a relic of the 1970s known as HOST. The core system predates the advent of the Global Positioning System, GPS, so HOST uses point-to-point ground-based radar. Every day, thousands of travelers switch their GPS-enabled smartphones to airplane mode while their flights are guided by technology that predates the speak and spell. If you're reading this at 30,000 feet, if you're listening to this at 30,000 feet, relax. HOST is still safe in terms of getting planes from point A to point B, but it's unbelievably inefficient. It can handle a limited amount of traffic, and controllers can't see anything outside of their own airspace. When they hand off a plane to a contiguous airspace, it vanishes from their radar. The FAA knows all of this. For the last 11 years, they've been trying to upgrade it with a new system called Next Gen. At its core is a new computer system that will replace HOST and allow any controller anywhere to see any plane in U.S. airspace. But as recently as April 2014, the new Next Gen system crashed at LAX. And why? Because a military U-2 jet entered its airspace. The spy plane cruises at 60,000 feet, twice the altitude of commercial airliners, and its flight plan caused a software glitch that overloaded and crashed the system. With that, that's all the news you need to know for now. I'll be back, and when I do come back, I'll have Derrel Sims, the alien hunter, with us live from Dallas, Texas. This is Fade to Black. Couple little glitches here at the beginning of the show. I think we're up and running. We're good. It's all fine now. I think we were using Next Gen. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll be back with Derrel Sims right after this. Stay with us.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're of the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
KJCR.
JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
All right, everybody. Welcome back, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses only on the Game Changer Network. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Follow us on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B. You can also hashtag F2BQ if you have any questions for myself or Derrel Sims. And I'm ready. So excited to have Daryl back on the show. Daryl is the alien hunter. He's the world's leading expert on alien abductions. His 38-plus years of field research has focused on physical evidence and led to his groundbreaking discoveries of alien implants and alien fluorescence. As a former military police officer and CIA operative, Sims has a unique insight to alien organizations which he believes functions similarly to an intelligence agency. I would like to welcome back to the show our good friend, my good friend, live from Dallas, Derrel Sims. Daryl, how are you tonight, sir?
Oh, how you doing, Jimmy? Absolutely great to be here.
The last time we hung out, we were at a Denny's somewhere in the valley.
Well, I like Denny's, and I certainly liked the company that night. You were, I'll tell you, Jolene and I were there with you, and I'm telling you, you had us in stitches.
I go back and I look at those pictures of us there at Denny's, and I got to tell you that we looked like two happy guys. And I'm telling you right now, Denny's and good company is all America, man. That's all I got to say.
Pot roast was the best I ever had. Fantastic.
I think that's what you ordered that night. Actually, I think you ordered pot roast. I went omelet. You went pot roast, man. I remember.
Oh yeah.
So, what's the good news, man? What have you been up to? I haven't talked to you in a little bit. I know you just were out stirring up trouble in Arizona at the Congress. And what else? How did that go? Did you see Bob Lazar?
I did not get to see Bob Lazar. He was there, of course. I did. I was doing an interview during that time for 2.5 hours for NBC. And they normally did about interviews for about 10, 15 minutes per person. And the lady was so taken with some of the things we were doing. She, Katie Lindendahl, who it was, and she was absolutely excellent in her TV representation work. And I was just very impressed with her, and we just got into it, and she finally found out what was going on with some of our research, and she just completely lost it and just wanted to go further into it. So I missed some of the speakers as a result, but I was delighted because she's going to take all that and put it on YouTube, as I understand it. So we should get some pretty good press out of it and get some good people coming in with other evidence, I hope.
Let's get back to that in just a second. Obviously, the big news of the weekend was that you were there, but also Bob Lazar. So Bob Lazar opened for you. I get that. You're Derrel Sims, but that was the buzz, wasn't it? And after he was off the stage, did you get a chance to talk to anybody about how they felt about seeing him once again?
I did talk to several people about it because I didn't get to see his presentation, which I understand was quite good. Some of the scientists and others, I was really interested in having their viewpoints, and it was just split right down the middle. I mean, people that still scratching their heads saying, wow, and others scratching their heads saying, I'm not sure I'll buy that. So I think some of them bought some of the story and some of them bought more of it, but it just seems to be down the middle from what the ones I spoke to.
I wish you would have seen him, because your comments and insight would have been very unique. I wasn't there, and I've talked to a few people, and I think he's from what I can gather, he seemed reticent. That he was happy to be there, but also said that he just didn't like doing this. And so it's kind of a mixed message.
Yeah, I think probably he's been hammered enough. Whether I don't care whether you believe his stories or not. The fact is, he's been hammered so much that it doesn't. Even if every word he said was true, and it may be, you take that kind of a beating for so long, you just get tired of it. You just walk.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's change gears a little bit. We've had over the last couple of weeks some pretty crazy UFO news that we haven't had this much in the mainstream media in quite a long time. Specifically, there's a few things to talk about. There's the Roswell slides that are getting ready to be revealed here publicly in a public forum. We have this crash up in Manitoba of a reported flying saucer, and that's all over the internet right now. And we have John Podesta with his tweet about disclosure. Pretty interesting times over the last couple of weeks. When was the last time that we've had this much to talk about that you can remember?
It's been a while. That's pretty interesting stuff. While I was at I get confronted by a number of people in very positive ways. I didn't experience one negative thing at that conference. It was absolutely one of the best conferences I've ever been to, and it was just absolutely wonderful, well run. Everybody enjoyed themselves, and very informative. And people who didn't necessarily agree with my viewpoint, like contactees and things like this, who basically are here to welcome me and with open arms and this sort of thing, came up to me and said, I've never thought about it that way. Thank you for that. So it was a very positive conference. While at the conference, a man confronted me, and he says, what do you think about these Roswell slides? And I said, I haven't seen them and don't know anything about them yet. And he says, I'm the one that has them.
Really?
I said, okay, and what do you want to talk to me about? And he said, I want to interview you. He said, of all people, I want to interview you. So I said, well, fire away. He says, do you think these could be real? I said, well, until I examine them. And I said, I'm not qualified to give that opinion. I said, I am qualified to examine you and, and to talk to you about it and so on, because that's what I do with people. I said, as far as the evidence itself, it needs to go to people that are independent, and I mean not UFO related at all. And he says, these are special found like ectochrome or whatever, and they can't be fudged. And I said, it's not the point. It has to be determined by people non-UFO related. And if we don't do that, I said, it makes it look bad. And I said, you're going to take a beating for this. I don't even care whether it's all real or not. Again, when you come out with evidence, people it's like they consider evidence as a nail, and they've got the hammer, and they want to beat on it.
Right. And can you say who it? I mean, who was? Can you say who it was?
Based on what we discussed, and I don't think he's going to publish that right off, because I gave him a lot of really valuable information that I felt was useful to him. I said, if you do this right, I said, you can do well, and you won't have to get beat to death. If you do it wrong, I said, they're going to crucify you. And anyway, we had a really nice long talk privately about evidence and maybe the way that he ought to present this. And he finally asked the question. He said, well, we feel like these are authentic. And so I said, I understand that. I said, you're not the only one with photos of real bodies. And he got real quiet. He said, what do you mean? That's just exactly what I said. And he says, you mean you have some too? I said, of course you do. I said, we've got sonograms of an alien being inside a woman. And besides that, it's some good photography of other things, alien bodies as well. I said, these are not things that are going to be, and the bodies are not going to be shown. I said, we're not going to put them out like you're doing it for different reasons. But I said, and I think it's good what you're doing. I said, it's just that if it's done in a hype type way, it's going to get a lot of press, and you're going to get beaten for it. And after it's all over, you may find it not to be worth it, especially if you ever find something again. So it's just the way you market that. It's just the way you hand it out. And I said, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying this is probably what's going to happen. And he seemed to agree. And I said, he said, what he said, which I will say, he said, would you be interested in participating in this? And I said, we've got pathologists and other people in our circles that probably would come on and tell what they thought. I said, here's the problem with most pathologists in these type cases. They'll sit there and they'll go, oh my God, wow, amazing, and so on. And when you put the camera on them, they say, this looks like a hydrocephalus child, me. And they just completely switch their opinions. And because they don't want to get caught. They don't want to tell the truth, basically. But I said, I think we've got sufficient people in the right circles now that we could probably help you in that realm. Again, I said, you have to understand, we're not here to make anything be real. We're here to simply prove it yay or nay. And it's a lot easier in the science method to prove it wrong than it is to prove it real.
And did you get a chance did he show you the slides?
He did not. And he said, I would like to talk to you later and see if we can engage you to, I said, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. I have no problems with it. And I said, I can tell you right now, there'll be no endorsement. I said, I won't own any of this. I said, I don't care whether it's good or bad. That's the only way I would be interested in doing that is to bring in professionals that are highly qualified to make that determination. And from a film point of view, from a photography point of view, and from and others who have perhaps even seen these bodies before. And he seems to suggest that others may have actually seen these bodies themselves. So, I think he's got a few surprises for everybody. I think it's going to be a fun ride, regardless.
Have you had a chance to jump online since your conversation with him to see the images that have been released?
I have not.
Okay. Yeah, I have seen him, Daryl, and I'm the jury's still out for me. Now I'm looking at second and third generation versions of them. They were leaked, but they're not high definition images. They're just photographs of the slide that were up on a large screen during their presentation, and those are the photographs that you see. So, they're 2 or 3 generations removed, but it's, we all want this to go in the right direction. We want this, it will be really, really bad for ufology and for Roswell if this goes the road of the alien autopsy film. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I told him to be careful. I said, and he said, I need you to sign off on this and do that if we engage you to help and so on. And I said, I would be interested in doing that. I said, but only if everything's way above board. And when I bring some specialists to the table, you don't get to be choosy about, because they're not UFO guys. Everything. And he seemed like a nice guy, and I hope he does the right thing. I do. If he doesn't, he'll pay the price. I assure you. There's plenty of people out there with nails and crosses waiting for folks.
You ain't lying, man. Oh man, and you're absolutely right. They're just, they're like a wound spring, just getting ready to pounce, and that's it. And if there's any chink in the armor, they're gonna find it.
For sure. And I like I said, I wish him the best. And I said, whatever you choose to do, I said, if you're an investigative journalist or think you are, it will be real important for you to present your evidence and not own the evidence. As if you own it, and you're wrong, you will really pay. And if you're right, I said you're still going to pay anyway, but it'll be a little better for you. But as a journalist, I said you shouldn't. If that's what you're presenting yourself as, you shouldn't involve yourself in that aspect of it. It's not good for a career if that's what you intend.
What about John Podesta's tweet that he did 2 weeks ago on Friday? I know you read it. What did you think? What was your first impression?
Well, I actually saw him say it, and I've been following this guy for a while, and he has made some interesting comments. And again, to show you the reach and the depth of the UFO phenomenon, how real it is in the government. I mean, here's a man with all kinds of power, all kinds of connections, saying, I wish we could have done something more with it. And you go back to the next person who in line for that was, realistically, who got to that level and talked about it, was a guy named Barry Goldwater, senator from Arizona. And he called a friend of his who was a general. In fact, I heard the actual conversation between them. It's available. And it was recorded, and he told his friend, he said, I want to know all about this Roswell stuff and all about the flying saucer now. You can tell me. And that general told him to shut his mouth. He said, don't you ever. He just ordered him around and said, I don't have to tell you anything. A sitting senator, a general, to be able to say that to a sitting senator about UFOs, and he didn't have to tell him, and he wasn't going to. Now, if there was nothing to it, that conversation would have gone far differently. But the fact is, there is something to it. And I think Podesta just hinted at it, again, as Ronald Reagan did in his presentations. The hint is that he just letting everybody know that he did look, but he was not able to bring anything out to anybody. I think he may have found some stuff, maybe, but he certainly didn't bring it out personally for whatever reason.
And, he was working with Obama all year in 2014, and he implied, this is how I read, I read that tweet two ways. One, it was a complete joke, and he was joking, and he said it facetiously. Or he was implying that, and if you take it at face value, then he was implying that he spoke to people inside of the administration and couldn't get it done. That's what that there's stuff there, and we know that there's stuff there, and he just couldn't pull it off. And that's the way that I read that tweet.
Well, I'm going to go with the second version, and the reason I'm going to go with that's not because I'm guessing. I'm going to go with the second version where he did talk to some people and was basically told to shut his mouth or get off the case or forget it. You're not going to see anything. There isn't anything to see anyway, and you're not going to see anything if there was. It's because this stuff is so tightly ensconced in the intelligence community. And I can't tell you how I know that now, but eventually I will. And I promise I will break it on Jimmy Church's show. But you will be surprised. You are very correct there. You gave two different answers, and I guarantee you one of them is true, and it's provably true.
Yeah, and I feel like we're so close when a guy like John Podesta tweets that out. Now he is open to questions from journalists at a later date about that tweet. Now, it's public now, and he's going to have to poop or get off the pot, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, whatever he decides to do with his pot or pooping or whatever he chooses to do, whichever he's on, it is a reasonable assertion by me and others who have investigated this for quite a while that there obviously is something rotten in Denmark. Well, Denmark says it's Washington. And that this UFO phenomenon is in fact so real that, and it's so big that you can't hide all of it. And everybody says, well, if all this, there are leaks, but you have to know how to spot the leak and how to ferret it out. And you have to be careful how you ferret it out and how you look at things and other people, simply because that could get a lot of folks in trouble if you were following this in different trails. And I think that if you can read and figure a lot of this stuff out, but I would like to see this stuff followed out in a very different way. And like I said, in the future, we may be having that discussion again.
And now we have potentially another Roswell with this situation up in Canada. Now, what is really strange about this Canadian crash is the apparent shutdown on media. Now, look, I'm not saying anything has gone on up there, but the reports are there, and what we haven't had is a complete debunking of the story, that it is just somebody that was, having fun and tweeted it out there and did the post, or it is a true shutdown of the military of what is going on up there. What do you have any inside information, or what's your take on what happened up in Manitoba?
Well, I don't have any inside dope on that one. What I do have is some anecdotal information that might be useful to people who like to explore, and we have some explorers listening. One is that when the Varginha incident happened in 1996, a UFO crash in Brazil, and there's absolutely no question that all happened and that the bodies were retrieved. There's absolutely no question. In fact, there's a statue in the city of Varginha of the alien being that everybody saw, and it was hauled off.
Right.
The best information, even though that whole thing was shut down by the military, and everybody ordered to shut their big mouths, one smart UFO investigator went down to the local hair salon right after that happened, sat there with a newspaper in front of his face, acting like his wife was getting her hair done. This is a place where all the general and top echelon military people's wives come to get their hair cut. And he sat there and listened to every one of them tell the story about the bodies and where they were at and everything else, and how upset they were because their husbands had to stay on the base because of that flying saucer that crashed, that UFO that crashed. If you can place yourself in the right spots, you can often get good information.
So you are suggesting, we have a bunch of listeners up in Canada, and
yes.
And I know that they're listening right now. And I get every week I get a couple of calls out of Manitoba, and I'm anxiously waiting for some information to come in. What is, like you're saying, what's the word on the street? Were there actual witnesses that photography, video? Were things confiscated? Was there an actual sighting in the sky? The pictures that I saw today, I'm not buying into.
No.
That just looks like Photoshop stuff. But what is the real story up there? What is, did they witness something in the sky or not? Either it's a plane or it's not. The military is saying it's a plane that crashed, and they did say that publicly. I mean, CBC did their report on it, and that the military was doing a crash retrieval of a plane, and that it was a military exercise. And just by that description alone, just seems a little, stinky.
Yeah, we don't know right now. We just don't know, and until we get some inside detail on that from people who were actually there and did do some photography or were able to. I mean, if you're going to go to a place like that, or you're going to be involved in something like that, if you got 2 or 3 people there, you need to grab your camera and someone else's, snap pictures of both of them, and then when the military and the other people come up, give them your camera. Say, is this okay if I keep these? And they'll take yours and keep it. I mean, believe me, this has been done before. It has been done before, and some of the best evidence we have is done just that way. They didn't know there was a second camera.
I want to change gears a little bit, if you don't mind, my friend. We have talked so much one-on-one privately, but there's a couple of things that I don't know if I've ever asked you directly, and I want to get into ET species, what's actually out there. But have you ever had an encounter?
I have. As a matter of fact, thank you for asking.
Yeah, I mean, out of all of our conversations, and we have gotten pretty deep with the two of us, and I have no problems with sharing some of the things that you have said to me, but I don't know if I've ever asked you that. Have you ever had yourself a close encounter?
I have. When I was 4 years old in 1952, tells everybody I'm older than dirt.
Wow.
The fact is that I had an encounter when I was 4 years old. I was quite, I was not frozen, paralyzed, and all the stuff you hear in a lot of these current stories. And the reason is because I said what I didn't know at the time was that I'd just been brought back and dropped off. I did not know that in effect they, the alien, whatever, and I don't know, and I use the word alien lightly because to me they're just entities. I'm not sure alien even applies. But the fact is, what happened is that Dean had just dropped me off. He was walking back toward the wall, and that's when I sat up in bed. I guess his switch off didn't work very long because I sat up in bed and I wanted, who is it? Why doesn't he have any clothes? I mean, it's freezing in wintertime. Why does this guy not have any clothes? And what's he doing in my room? As I was thinking all this, he turned around very quickly and looked at me, and I could hear him think, or I thought I could, and the statement was, "It's awake." And he's talking about me. And I can't figure out why his lips are not moving. I mean, there's enough light in my little room that I could see him. He had no clothes on whatsoever. When he turned around, I really got surprised in my life. I realized he didn't have a TT. He didn't have a belly button. He didn't have any of these other little things we had. And I couldn't figure out what in the world, why is he no clothes in the wintertime?
Right.
He had large black round eyes, and he was pure white with a large bulbous head.
And was this you're in bed, so this was at night?
It was at night and fairly late. I didn't know what time. At 4 years old, wouldn't know anything anyway. But I was set up in bed. I wasn't scared. I wasn't alarmed. I wasn't upset. I wasn't frozen. I wasn't paralyzed. I wasn't anything. And after 40 years investigating, I can tell you, Jimmy, that if you don't have genitalia, you don't procreate.
Right.
If you don't have a navel or a belly button, you didn't get here the way we do. You weren't born.
Right.
You were hatched, cloned, and manufactured. You got here some other way. Which gave me some huge clues as I got older about where these guys may have come from, and we can discuss that later. The next thing is he seemed to realize that he's got a mistake, and he's going to now make me not remember. And what he did, his eyes moved to some little strange movement. I thought it was his eyes. I assumed that's what it was. And instantly I became paralyzed. Now, what that means, I think, is that he transferred his fear to me. And I was paralyzed with his unbelievable fear. I did not know fear like that. I had no clue at 4 years old. And after all the research I've done, 1,650 cases worldwide, these entities live in enormous fear, especially the lowest ones of them, the ones on the lowest realm, like the gray. And they are, when they transfer their fear to you, it's almost like a drug to them. They, for the first time, get to live without it while it's on you.
Wow.
It controls you, but they are elated that they no longer have to live in fear.
Were you laying down? Were you sitting in bed when you were paralyzed? What position were you in?
I was sitting up looking at him, and then all of a sudden, this change of events, this instantaneous, very rapid, and I was sitting up at the time, and as he started to walk toward me, that's when I made a lurch backwards, and I fell against the edge of the bed in the corner, and I pushed so hard, I pushed my little bed, which is only about 3 foot wide. I pushed my little bed out, and I fell down between the bed and the V of the wall and the bed, and the covers wrapped around my arms and everything else. And I mean, I couldn't get up and couldn't get out, and I bounced my little head off the floor. And it was a nightmare of every little kid's dream. nightmare. I mean, a total nightmare. He couldn't get to me from where he was at, so what he did was reach under the bed and lift up the covers on that side and stuck his huge bulbous head underneath the bed where I was underneath.
Oh, man.
And put his large black round eye right next to mine.
Oh.
And tried to change my imagery of him into that of a clown so that I would have dreamed it was a bad dream. I kept shaking my little head. No. Just I wanted to remember him for what he was, not for what he wanted me to think he was.
Wow.
And it didn't work. And next morning I woke up in bed, and I mean, just everything, but the bed was pushed back and everything. It wasn't a dream, and my parents, I was so upset, I would never tell them what it was, that the next night they put me between them, which is real unusual. They'd never put me between them like that. And all of a sudden, I just jolted and just woke up sleeping between them, and I looked up and there was the same cosmic skinhead and another one looked just like him at the end of the bed. I kept hitting my dad so hard in the back with my little tiny elbow. I hit him on the spine. I'm sure it hurt his spine. I mean, as hard as I hit him, I couldn't wake him up, because when you're taken in these events, they take the other people. I call it nuke them, and they basically put them in a stupor that they can't arise from. My dad protected me with his life. I mean, there's no question about that. And so they got me again the second night, and that was that next morning. I woke up and I had a little gift, or a trademark, so to speak, from the alien. I had a big scoop mark, 5/8 of an inch big, on the shin of my little tiny skinny leg. I mean, it looked like the crater on the moon. It was so big.
What prevented the erasing of your memory? Why do you think you remembered everything?
I remembered a lot. I remembered a lot in each of my events, and I had about 10 events over a period of 13 years, from 1952 to 1965. And when I was 17, my events ended violently that night. But in those events, the reason is, and this happens to probably about 15-20% of people, they are not hoodwinked by the alien Stockholm syndrome. And that is, the alien often will simply, one of the programs they run is to cause you to become a contactee, where you think it's okay for them to abduct you, or it's for our best and highest good, or whatever program they're running on you. You bought into it. I didn't. I could tell this guy, I wasn't afraid of him from the minute he was in the room. But what I was afraid of was the fact that he was lying to me. He was trying to change his image into something else and make me have a bad dream. And that was more awful than anything in the world. I mean, our family was about trust. And I mean, this was everything opposite of I'd ever known as a mom and dad, or an adult. An adult lying to me like that was just off the charts wrong.
Unbelievable. It sounds, you know about my experience with my little paralysis situation too. And very similar. When I told you about mine, could you tell that, I was telling you the truth?
Well, when I watch people very carefully, and thank you for bringing that up. I'm a handwriting analyst, as well as I teach how to determine when people are lying, telling the truth, and what part of the brain they're using when they're talking to you. And I was very taken with your story. I'm very taken with you as a person, because you're a man of good integrity, and I just have a great deal of faith in your integrity. You stand for a lot of reasons, and it's not just UFOs. It's who you are. And I mean, that's not a compliment. It's a fact. It's just that there are some people that way, and you walk the walk, and I admire that. And I don't think everybody knows what the paralysis is. Sometimes the paralysis may be accepted as their own, or as a dreamlike state, or whatever. But in my case, after working with thousands of cases, literally thousands, and taking on 1,650. That it became very apparent to me that these beings are transferring their fear, because they live in abject fear of their life, for terror. There are times when your little pizza delivery guy, the little cosmic skinhead that may pick you up as an abductee or a contactee,
right?
If he does wrong enough and they don't like it, the next guy above him, they'll simply ask that little toaster to step outside and take a breath of fresh air. Right. You won't see him anymore.
Right. When I hear you describe your situation at that age, do you feel, with all of your investigative work, and this is a direct question, is there an age where you see more encounter? Is it mainly with children? Does it happen at a later age? Because with me, I was in my 30s when I had my experience, and I don't know if I've had anything as a young child. I don't remember anything. But
you may not.
Is there an age that they are looking for?
The direct answer to your question is twofold. Number one, it is quite young. It is children. And number two is, why would you want to get children? Because they're so impressionable. This is the time that you want to mold them and to lie to them. I mean, if you want to lie to somebody, do it as a child, because this child will believe everything you say.
Right.
If you're an authority figure, they'll buy into it. I mean, that's just the way it works.
Right.
I think that is one thing. We have rare cases where people were taken with the mother while they were pregnant, and they seem to know that. I don't know how they know it, but we do know that there were babies taken, definitely babies taken, and experienced missing time. Parents couldn't find the babies, and they come back and find them. And I've seen the evidence of that and some of the damage some of these entities have done to the life of these individuals. One of them not more than 5 miles from me. By the same token, the reason it's important to take children is they're so impressionable. And, I mean, the Chinese figured that out long ago, the communist Chinese, and they used to do all kinds of fun things to these little kids, like when they wanted to change their views about from Christianity to communism. They would place a little candy in front of all the kids, say, okay, I want you to pray to God and have him put a piece of candy in front of you, and, of course, they'd open their eyes, and it would mean say, close your eyes again, now pray to Sherman Mao. And, of course, they'd go put a piece of candy in front of all these kids.
Works.
I mean, this is the age you want to work on people. If you want to program them, this is the time to do it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm still a big fan of all of the cereal that I saw commercials on when I was 5 years old.
For sure.
I mean, and you know what I'm saying. You're exactly right. And what about? Is it a setup? And for you, is it a setup for the future for repeat visits? And did you have another encounter after yours?
It is generally a setup for repeat visits because, again, if the program works and you buy into it, especially you've been selected for that purpose, then they're coming back. I mean, that's just going to happen. In some cases, like I said, probably about 40% of the people are going to be abductees, about 60% will become contactees. And the difference between the two is an abductee doesn't want the experience or they just don't like it. And a contactee, these are wonderful people. They're kind, good people who are kind of like honeybees. They don't realize the funny little man in the white suit with large black eyes stealing their honey is not supposed to do that.
Right.
And abductees are like killer bees. You can steal that honey, but you're going to wish you hadn't done it if they ever catch you.
Right. Did I just cut you off? I'm sorry.
Yeah, in my case, they did come back. The next event was about, about 6 or 7 months later, because it's a kid, you don't remember exactly the dates, but we were building a parsonage for the church where we lived in Mayhill, New Mexico, and we had an outdoor privy, an outdoor bathroom, so to speak. I mean, the old style one. While we were building the parsonage, we had to use that until we had. So I went out one night, and I was in the fourth grade then, and went out there and used the restroom and shut the door. And as I shut the little door, closed it, there was that entity standing right there behind the door. I mean, it scared me half to death. I jumped out of my skin. It's pure white. Again, it was moonlight, and this was summertime. And I'll tell you, I lost it. And there were several things that I remember from that event. One was him being there, and of course, the next day, when I came back, my parents wondered why I was out there so long. But when I came back, I never would go back up the bathroom again. And I would go to the point of being impacted. I would not go to the bathroom. I would not.
No.
I would never go back outside because I was not going to. Not at night because I'm afraid he was going to be out there waiting on me again. So the bottom line is, the next day after I came home from school, I've saved and rescued more animals, probably most people that you know of. I mean, but literally by the thousands. I mean, from Bengal tigers to mountain lions to deer, rabbits, you name them. Everything in the world. Horses, anything you can imagine. I'm kind to animals. I love animals. I love insects. But the next day, I went out and I was pulling the heads off of grasshoppers left and right by the hundreds. And I couldn't figure out, why am I being cruel to these little grasshoppers?
Right.
They're fun little guys. And as I got the grasshopper right next to my face and looked at it carefully, I realized that's the face of the thing that got me. He took my alien guy, the little cosmic skinhead, the little gray guy, took me to this praying mantis-like being. And that's why I was pulling the heads off these little grasshoppers. It was just an excuse to get to him.
Wow.
Because he looked just like a grasshopper in his eyes.
What would happen if you saw an actual praying mantis? Would you just snap?
I'd probably jump on and stomp it to death.
Yeah,
I like praying mantises. I do. I love them. I do. I still love insects. But I know now. I knew as soon as I got that little bug closer, I could get to his face. And finally, one day, I saw a praying mantis for the first time in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And when I saw him, I realized, wrong bug.
Really?
That's the bug.
Wow.
That's the one right there. That's the guy right there. And I didn't kill it, but because I'm old enough now to realize that it's something else. And I was just beyond mortified that things like that could exist. I mean, that's just not possible. A 6-7 foot tall praying mantis just can't exist.
I had to,
especially when you stay in the.
Yeah, I want to jump back for a second. You pointed out something that I hadn't heard before, but you are adamant about this white complexion, and so let me ask you this: are you saying white because it was white, or are you saying it was white because it appeared white, and it could have been gray or another color, or was this thing white?
I will be crystal clear about this. That being was white as a sheet. White as a sheet. It had perfectly round black eyes. I did not, back then in 1952, nobody knew anything about an alien. I mean, nobody knew anything. Nobody watched shows. Nobody knew. There was nothing back then.
Right.
If there was, at 4 years old, I certainly didn't know anything about it. My parents would have let me sit around and watch alien shows, even if there were any.
Right.
But the fact is, this thing had perfectly round eyes. And when I saw the first Hollywood version of an alien with a little elliptical eyes, I thought people were making that up. Because mine never looked like that at all.
Right.
I thought they were making it up.
Now, in your 1,650 or so investigations that you have done, what do you look for? And what happens if somebody says white?
I found someone when I was speaking in Chile one day. I put my alien up there. I made a model of him, a model of his head, and put him up there on. And a lady came forward afterward, nearly in tears, and said, "Oh my God, it was perfectly white. It had large, round eyes. It didn't have those other kind of eyes." And I was floored. I've met several people since then that saw them, especially way back in the 60s or before. That many of the entities were round eyes. And then, of course, she asked the question, what's the difference between what we saw and what they see today?
Right.
I said, imagine these guys not as races of aliens, because they're not, but imagine them as models, like in a car company. And what we had was a Chevette.
Ah.
And what they had was a Lexus.
Right.
I mean, it's just a different model.
Because they were manufactured.
Okay, well, let's go to that real quick.
Yeah, let's go there.
This is fun. And it's a stretcher, I'll tell you. It'll stretch your brain out there a bit. According to the latest Bigfoot research, let's look at all these entities, about 7 of them, very briefly. According to the latest Bigfoot research, the DNA work done on the Bigfoot showed that he is 3 things, and this is amazing, if true, and it seems to be. He is modern man DNA, not Cro-Magnon or Australopithecus or some other ancient, bizarre little monkey guy or whatever, but modern human man, simian or ape-like creature. And the third, he had chlorophyll in his body.
He had what?
That was his chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll.
That was his makeup. Chlorophyll. Now, this is going to get interesting. I'll tell you, Jimmy, you're going to lose it when you hear this. Now, that's Bigfoot. Now, the question one has to ask oneself is, where would I get simian DNA? Let's see, if I'm an alien, I want to go around, fly around, steal some simian DNA so I can make me a Bigfoot. Well, let's see, we can stop by Jupiter, but I don't think there's any there. We can stop by Zeta Reticuli, probably nothing there. Wait a minute. Planet Earth's got all kinds of apes, doesn't it? Well, I bet we could get some DNA there. Well, what about the humanoid? What if I want to make a humanoid like a Noric? Why? I guess we could stop by Mars, but probably isn't anybody there. Not that looks human anyway. Well, wait a minute. Earth's got a bunch of those humans, too. We could get some DNA there if we wanted to. And I need me a 7-foot praying mantis. Now, where would I get praying mantis DNA? I'll bet it's not the moon.
No.
Wait, there's all kinds of DNA on Earth. And as my friend, the Native American, the Zuni elder, Cliff Mahudi is my buddy, as he said, but the grains and everything there are from the inside the earth there called the ant people. And I said, God bless you. I think that's a good term for them. Where do you get ant DNA, Cliff? Probably on planet Earth.
Probably.
Anyway, so somebody, in my opinion, came here and got the DNA of all these creatures, including a reptile, manufactured, hatch cloned these entities, brought them back here, and did one of 2 things to them. Either one, told them, you're going to lie to all these people, tell them you're aliens from other planets, although you look like some from planet Earth. Or B, you are from Zeta Reticuli. And that's where you came from, and you're 8 million years old, or 1 billion years old, or whatever. And they bought into it. Either story works. It doesn't make any difference.
No, it doesn't.
The fact is, if they believe it or they tell it, it doesn't matter, because when you abduct people, and especially little children, and tell them that we are your parents, your parents are not really your parents. Terrible things they tell these kids. Terrible things. Your parents are not your parents. No, we're it. We are your family. And so on. I mean, this is just off the charts insane.
When another experience pops up like mine, which I wasn't in, I wasn't in a swamp. I wasn't in a remote part of the world. I was in downtown Sherman Oaks, California, in the valley, of which there's a couple of million people around. It's a city. And, what about that? Do they, because my experience says they're not discriminating. It doesn't matter. What about paralysis and sleep experiences and encounters that happen in the city? Is that common too as well?
It is. And I did a show with CNN one time, and they said, we want you to debate Susan Clancy and Dr. Blackmore in England. And I said, well, but I already win. They said, but you haven't been debated. I said, there's no debate. I said, they said this is based on sleep paralysis or some kind of mechanical thing, the way somebody messes with your mind. He says, yeah. I said, okay. See, 68% of these cases in the United States, the people are wide awake. So sleep paralysis is out. I win. I win the argument.
Right.
At least 30% of the time. So they lose. That's the second. It's interesting to me that people come back with an implant or marks, cuts, bruises, scars, missing skin. I mean, large chunks of skin missing overnight, and it's cauterized. How does that happen during sleep paralysis? Bring me one person that's had a sleep paralysis event like that, and we can talk. Until then, I think they should keep their big mouth shut. As for Dr. Blackmore in England, well, we put this device on people's head, and then they thought they had alien events. I said, that's neat. How do you suppose all those people in the United States, around the world, found your device, got in line in the middle of the night, snuck into your office, put it on their head and say, I'm going to have me an alien experience. and did that long before you ever invented it. I said, you're dumb as a bag of hammers. Just stupid.
I can assure you, I didn't have anything on my head.
I said, but it might give you a clue of some of the things that were done to these people and the kind of tech that might have been involved.
Yeah,
you're on the right track. You're just doing it wrong.
You know, and to be perfectly clear, with my experience, and I know I've said this to you, but I want everybody to understand in the audience, my experience. Number one, I was alone. Number two, the TV wasn't on. I didn't have, Independence Day playing as I fell asleep. There was nothing like that. I was alone. Place was not dark. My bedroom, you could still see. There was the sliding glass doors that went out onto the patio to my right. The blinds were open, so the moonlight was coming in. You could see the room. You could see everything that was in there. But there wasn't anything going on. I was lying flat on my back. There was nothing to cause this thought to come into my mind. That was it. And I was alone. And that was the experience. Like, the power of suggestion that he is talking about, right? That he's referring to was not in play. There was nothing in play. If the power of suggestion was blankets, okay, I had those. If the power of suggestion came from the pillow that was under my head, okay, I'm guilty of that. But anything else that could have caused me to have this wasn't in play that night. And I just want to be very, very, very clear on this. I was paralyzed, and it lasted for 15 minutes, and there was something at the foot of my bed, and I couldn't raise my head to look at it. I could only move my eyeballs down, and I could see him there. I couldn't see his full body. I couldn't see his color, by the way, Daryl. I think I told you that before, too, as well. People have asked me about that. That I couldn't see. I couldn't make out those types of details. I could only see the eyes and the face and the head and shoulders. That's what I could see. I couldn't see the torso or the hips or the feet or the legs or anything like that. I couldn't make that out. So, but that's it, and that's my experience. Now, I will say this, Daryl, you don't know about this. I have the Fadernauts out there have been pressuring me to be regressed. And you offered to do that, and so you want to share my reaction? You remember that when you said, "Jimmy, there's something here, and we need to do this." What was my reaction?
Well, you were probably a lot like me. Whoa. The fact is that if you there are ways you can check to see if that event really was real and how much of it was real or imagined and how much of the truth is in that. And if a regression overall, generally speaking, I don't particularly care about or go along with until the case is actually explored. But one thing I will tell you, if you do this and choose to, and if that event is real, I will be very surprised if there are not plenty of other events before that.
Yeah,
I will be very surprised.
And you said that to me, and my reaction was, and I'll remind you, I don't want to know. I really, I'm so disturbed by everything else because I remember all of it. I was awake, and everything. And I was so traumatized for years after that, sleeping with the lights on and sleeping with the TV on. I didn't want to do this again. I don't know if I really want to find out. Do you have...
Let me give you advice. I will tell you advice I give every person out there, and it works for you just as well as it does anybody. And my view is this: if you want to find out, I had to know because I was awake. I mean, I didn't get a choice.
Right.
But if I hadn't been awake, I'd want to know anyway. I'd wanted to know what's going on with me. I want to know who's stealing my time. I mean, if there's 10 events and 3 hours of time, that's 30 hours of my life gone, and I want to know who got it and where I was at. I want to know that.
Right.
Most people, I warned them, it's just like Pandora's box. You remember what happened to Pandora?
It was bad
news. If you don't want to live with this for the rest of your life, don't open that box.
Right.
Don't do it, because you will live with it for the rest of your days.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with the way I some things, maybe it's best just to leave that box closed. I
have no problem with that. None.
And I'm glad that when we first had our conversation about this, and it's not about me, Daryl, it's about you, by the way, but you put me at ease with it. If I do choose to do it, I will definitely do it with you, and we'll find out. Now, I wanted to back up really quick, comparing your experience with mine. Did you see the little guy walk? What was his gait? How did he walk? How did he move around?
They do it different ways. Some of them seem to float, and others tend to actually walk. In rare cases, some people say they walk with almost their joints backwards. But I've not seen mine. His joints worked forward like ours. They were just long, skinny, spindly little legs. Now the Mantis, that was a different story. He, beyond horrific, is the only way I can describe him. The way he moved. I mean, if I ever did a movie, I guarantee you I'll scare half the people out of that building, because half the people in that building probably already had those experiences, and they'll recognize him right off the bat. Movie people don't know how to do this because they're always making stuff up. I don't make stuff up. I simply tell what happened.
Right.
But the movement that he made, my particular guy, he was moving. Again, like you, being very truthful, I'm sitting up. I sense something in the room. I start to sit up, and he's walking toward, and I have a little tiny room, so I don't see all the way down to his feet. I mean, I just can't see down there. I see only from the top of his head down to his little skinny rear end and his legs, and then as he walks further toward the wall, and that's when I started thinking, and then so I didn't get to see a great deal of his gait other than it looked okay to me until he turned around, and I realized they're not built like us. They're not like us at all. And that was my first big clue. There's something wrong with this picture. And I wasn't afraid or anything. I just couldn't figure out why the little guy was in my room. I mean, if he was hungry or something, I'd call my daddy and had him get him something to eat. I mean, I just didn't have a clue. Not a clue what was going on. Nothing.
What did your parents say?
Oh, goodness. I will answer that question, by the way, about one that did run from me after this. My parents never knew. I never told them anything. Remember I said that they realized I was so upset they put me between them that night in the bed the next night. And my mother saw me on a TV program. She says, "Oh, Daryl, I mean, I knew you were the investigator, but oh my gosh, they said you were an abductee." Why, that's not right at all. I said, Mom, yeah, it is. Well, why did you never tell us? And I said, actually, I told Daddy. I just didn't tell you. Well, why didn't he tell me? I said, you'd have to ask him that. He was deceased at the time now.
Right.
But the point is that he never bothered to tell her, and he didn't want her to know. I didn't want anybody to know. I didn't want them telling me something bizarre like that was just this bad dream, and you just didn't get it.
Right, which is wrong. Is that what your dad said to you?
No, I never told him either. Until I was until my brother, about 10 years old. God, this is a horrific story. My dad, I just got out of the military, and the CIA just got out in the 10 March 71. And then we moved out of New Mexico to Austin, Texas, and we built a house there for my dad to live. He was a general home superintendent. My wife and I built his home for him pretty much. And while there, after it got built and everything, Daddy called me into the big garage that he had there, that it was enclosed at the time, and said, get in here and help this boy. And that was my brother. And I said, what's wrong with him? And he said, well, listen to what he says. And my little brother told a completely conscious story about alien abduction, much like what I said. I looked at my daddy after I heard the story, and I looked at Dad and I said, he's telling the truth.
Wow.
I've never seen the look on my dad's face so stunned. And the reason I think he was stunned, because, number one, his events were real. He never told us. I'm reasonably sure he was an abductee. The second thing is that he said, how do you know he's telling the truth? And I said, because Daddy else's story is exactly like mine, and I never told anybody. Then my daddy was really stunned, because I, of all people, a 10-year-old boy might have made it up, and my daddy had a rapport. I would have never lied to my dad about anything.
Right.
Period.
Right.
It was just, that was the way it was. And so Daddy never told Mom at all, and she found out by watching TV.
Why
to answer
do you...
the question on the rudder is, I was 12 years old in school. Let's see, that's 12, 13 years old in school. I was going into Mexico, and I had this tremendous urge to leave school and run out in the desert, and I knew exactly where to go, and I just had to do that. And being a perfectly obedient little kid, I wouldn't, but the urge was so great, I just could hardly stand it. And I couldn't figure out. In fact, I looked outside the window in the second-story building. The windows were down, up, so that we could look out. There were beautiful clouds and blue sky, and I wondered, I was trying to find where that message was coming from. However, that was Friday. Saturday morning, I grabbed my little .22 rifle that held 17 rounds, went out in the desert in that exact area where I was supposed to be, and the next thing I noticed was I'm standing there with my little rifle, and it's hot. And it's reason it's unusually hot because I'm standing in one place for quite a while. And as I wake up at the wrong time, as I did when I was a kid in the bed, and I opened my eyes and I realized that same little cosmic skinhead is walking away from me in broad desert in broad daylight. Again, not sleep paralysis. And as soon as I said, what is that? And as I did, he turned around, he heard me. I said that in my mind, and he heard me mentally. He turned around, and it's the first time in my entire life I ever saw him with fear on his face, ever. Because I had a .22 rifle. He knew it, and he knew I could shoot him.
What happened next? What happened next?
He took off running, and I kept standing there not believing what I'm looking at. And then finally I took off running after him. He was quite a ways away, but he was about 50 feet from me when I saw him. And I took off running, and then there's some big sand dunes and things around there, and bushes. He got away, and I thought he must have went to a little underground, little hideaway or something, and that I couldn't find. And I looked, I never did find him. All I found is where his footprints stopped. And when I went to that area and looked it over and over, trying to figure out where he went, it never occurred to me he went up,
right,
not down.
Right.
Never occurred to me at all.
Right.
Never occurred. But what made me know that, because I asked myself the same question, you could be hallucinating. But to be in the desert, in that spot with no one out there in the world, miles away from no one, and for there to be two sets of footprints, one of them starts at where I'm standing. In other words, let me back up. Imagine my footprints being my footprints didn't have a beginning, and my footprints didn't go from point A to point B and then stop. My footprint started there with his. In other words, like we were both dropped in the same location.
Yes.
And then our footprints ended where his disappeared and where I'm looking for him. So my first thing about, did I imagine it, was where are the rest of my footprints? And the other one was, why are his footprints different from mine in the sand? So what I know for absolute sure is I was chasing something or somebody who was about 5 foot tall, and they were pure white with large round eyes in broad daylight in the desert.
Interesting. And what about what did his footprints look like? I started to think Was he wearing shoes or not? But again, he's buck naked, right? He doesn't have any clothes on.
That is correct.
So what?
No clothes on.
Did I just say buck naked about an alien?
You did. You did. And they have little tiny butts, by the way.
Little tiny butts.
Skinny little legs, skinny little arms, skinny little frame. We're really odd-looking things, almost insect-like. Ant people's a good term for them.
What about
petroglyphs?
What about toes?
If you look at them, go ahead.
What about toes?
It tells I didn't get to see much of that because he was running the other direction, but I did see his feet. They were flat-like, and I asked in my questionnaire if you've ever seen an alien. I always ask them about the feet. Almost no one ever sees their feet.
Right.
Almost no one.
Right.
And we actually have I got one lady that, God bless her, she did exactly what I said in her investigation. And when he stepped on the carpet, she actually took a black light and actually copied and put some tape over it and sent me the sample of it and how it's mashed and drew a line around it. And it was consistent with what I saw. Imagine it duck-like without any real evidence of toes.
Wow. Like an outline of a
really
foot.
strange. Like a little baby, like a small child's foot, not a small child, but a young person's foot without any toes. Or if there were, they would have been very rounded, almost like they were webbed or together or something. Very strange. Very strange.
Now, as an investigator, do you hold back what you know, and do you try to bust people? There's certain things that you know to be true, and if somebody is going along with their, telling you about what happened, and at some point your BS meter just pegs, and you go, okay, that's enough. Or does the opposite happen, where they reveal something that only you know, Daryl, and you go, holy crap, okay, this is a real situation?
All of the above, Jimmy, all of the above, and I'll tell you why. First of all, some people make stuff up and they're a wannabe, and that's what they're there for. The problem is that 55% of all your communication is your physiology. 38% is the tone, pitch, and timbre of your voice. Only 7% is your words. What does that mean to an investigator? A woman is describing a rape. I was raped, I was sexually assaulted by this guy, and he did this, and he did that. And there's no physiology, no tone, pitch, and timbre change in her voice at all. Highly likely she's made that whole thing up. It just doesn't happen. You can't have trauma and not experience the trauma whenever you're going through it again. I mean, it doesn't work. That's number one. Number two is that some people have had real events, but they don't remember the whole thing. And sometimes they will confabulate parts of it because they don't know. And they want to help you out. And I'll tell them, don't help me out. If you don't remember, just don't tell me. It's okay.
Right,
I don't mind that.
Right.
And other people will, they will tell a part of the story that I know is patently not true, and I know they're also being honest. Now, there are ways to figure that out, too. But the patently not true part is part of a screen memory. I saw a 3-foot owl walking down the street with large black eyes in the middle of the night. Well, what are you doing looking for 3-foot owls with large black eyes that are wounded walking down the street in the middle of the night? That's not a true story. However, the being that picked you up is about 3 foot tall with large black eyes, mimicking a wounded owl. So that part's true.
Right.
They just don't know.
Right.
They don't know.
Well, I also...
Or a better example is one of them might have been standing at the end of my bed, and I keep using the word he, and yet I don't know what it was, but I call it he, and I can describe it, but I can't move.
Yeah, so you're totally. And, no, exactly. And so you're what's the word? You're a polygraph machine with a pulse, is what you're telling me, right?
Indeed. Okay. I have to be able to do that because when I go to foreign countries, a lot of those people don't speak my language, and vice versa. So I have to be able to question them and monitor them while they're speaking in other languages. I even teach this in other languages. So, I mean, it's effective in any language. It doesn't make any difference.
Well, plus, and this is the other thing, and I've hung out with you enough. I've introduced you and everything. We have a great respect for each other, but you also intimidate the crap out of me because you look like a cop. You look like, you just do. You it's because you are, and you have that aura about you, and you will get the truth out of somebody, is what I'm saying. You have that ability. You've got the eyes, you've got the look. You're tall, you're dark, you're scary, and you quite simply look like you look like a cop. I mean, if you're walking down the road, you're at a mall, you're walking down the road or whatever, I'm sure people come up and ask you for help. I mean, you just look like a cop.
They actually do. And while I was at the conference, I had there must have been a dozen people that walk up and said, "Oh my God, you look like Wyatt Earp.
Right,
look like
right.
You're ready to arrest somebody." And I just laughed and laughed and laughed. And there's the funniest thing, we were doing a shoot one time in Sedona, and it was cold, and I had my long black coat on, my large black hat, of course, Western hat. And I'm walking down the street, and they've got thousands of these tourists everywhere, Japanese and everybody. And this one lady walked up to me and said, "Sir, may I speak to you for a moment?" I said, "Please do." And I looked over real intently at her, and it's really intimidating to her. She's a little tiny thing, and I'm, of course, over 6 foot tall. And she said, "Aren't you the sheriff of Sedona?" I said, "No, ma'am, I'm not. But I should have been." And she laughed so hard, we just cracked up together there. But I used to be a police officer in the military, and actually I had for 2 years in covert operations. And I've been a private investigator for about over 30 years. And the bottom line there is that I go after criminals that cheat people. Most of the cases I do, I bounty hunt, but the ones I really like to go after are people that cheat people financially. And I've garnered 34 felonies to date against people the last 3.5 years that have cheated people. I changed their cases from civil to criminal. They face the music.
I don't know if I know this. You're licensed to carry, right?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, so do you? When I was with you, were you armed?
Not as far as you know. Listen, I was on a set one time. We were doing a shoot, and the abductee said he wouldn't go out in that desert again because he just got in a UFO event several nights before we got there, and he was scared out of his wits. And he was a contactee on top of that. But he told the producer he would not go out there on that desert again without an armed guard. And so the producer came to me privately and said, "Look, I don't want anybody else to know this, but you are licensed to carry." I said, "Yes." And I said, I used to teach weapons as well, and some of them look fairly exotic. And he said, "Would you carry a weapon out here?" I said, "Actually, I can, because Arizona is an open carry state. You can conceal or open carry." So I had a friend of mine bring the weapon, one of my ex-military SEAL buddies, and he brought a weapon up there for me, and with the holster and everything, and then all of a sudden the guy changed his mind at the last minute, so no one ever got to see me carry. But yes, I had a weapon with me at the time. But I didn't like the idea because I don't like carrying weapons on a shoot. And it's a bad word to use, isn't it? On a TV program.
Yeah, on a shoot.
I'm very careful, and nobody's would know it. But I told the producer, I said, it's really a bad idea. I said, first of all, the alien's not coming back. Second, if they do, weapons not going to be of much use in most cases. And I said, so it's good. I guess it's good for TV, but it's not good for. We ought to tell everybody I don't like little secrets like that. So I like everything to be straight up, and just tell everybody what they're going to do. To me, that's a better way to do it. But if I'm going to do bodyguard work or private executive protection or anything like that, yes, I will. I will be armed and ready to go.
I want to pop a couple questions out that have popped into Twitter. Did the alien ever show his teeth to you? Did you see him open his mouth?
Well, another big question we asked, did they have any teeth? And most of them will either not describe anything as teeth or didn't see anything, but a few who have. And one of them I'm quite convinced of that did see that said their teeth kind of looked like sheep teeth. They were real flat, almost as if they were vegetarian. And, of course, there are different goofballs out there on the internet who got them with sharp teeth ready to bite you like vampires or something.
Right.
But the fact is that these entities, what I would like to convey to your audience tonight is that the 7 models we looked at, from the Chevette to the Corvette Stingray, from the little gray to the doctor type, to the Mantis, the reptile, the humanoid, and the Bigfoot, all of those are just different models. And I assure you, these are not the only models they've made. And some of the humanoids look different than this. Some of the Bigfoots look a little different than each other. Some of the Mantis look a little different than me. And some of the grays and the doctor types look a little different. They do.
Well, they would.
They're different models of them.
Well, you and I look different.
Sure.
Yeah, that makes total sense. What about the descriptions of sharp teeth? And I bring this up because there was a movie that is out now. You might have seen it. Did you go see Montauk Chronicles at the Congress?
I did not.
Okay, you didn't participate in the film festival. Okay, well, in that, the ET that is portrayed in the film, which was described by the other witnesses at Montauk, this alien had, vampire teeth. I mean, pretty wicked-looking teeth. Do you dismiss that when you hear that? And because you kind of joked about it just a second ago, and I understand that, but is that something that you would dismiss right away, or is there also another race out there that does have that type of teeth?
There are other models that do have that, but most of the entities that we encounter are of the 7 varieties that we're generally acclimated to. And I'll give you an example of something real with teeth and scary. In the Varginha event that happened in Varginha, Brazil, in 1996, all of the entities had huge, long claws, maybe 4, maybe 5 inches long. Huge claws. I mean, how do you fly a spacecraft like that? And the guy inside, who apparently was the boss or the captain of the ship or whatever you want to call him, was covered with thick hair, large black eyes, not the red eyes like the others did, but large black eyes, huge, sharp, razor-sharp claws, and apparently was teeth bared ready to come after it. And the Paralysis shot him to pieces. I mean, they just blew him away and the rest of them. Those were in the morgue. They're not in the anywhere else.
Was this the sighting where the girls were sitting there and they did their eyewitness testimony on video?
That is correct. There were 3 little girls on their way to school or wherever.
Right.
And they saw a little boy crouched down, some little guy crouched down behind the bushes, and they didn't realize it's, one of the guys had been dropped off. And they walked over and asked him what was wrong in Portuguese, and of course he looked up and they thought it was the devil himself, because he was reddish color, bright red eyes, and 3 bumps on his head, like, I guess the little horns in their view. Mm-hmm. And they took off running, scared to death, thought the devil had just gotten in front of them. But in my opinion, based on the story, and I went down to Brazil and I studied this case with other Brazilian investigators, and in a churrascaria, a restaurant, a Brazilian restaurant, we took a large piece of paper on, I guess, to put some tables together, drew a gigantic map, a timeline of everything that happened, and I finally put that case for them from a detective's point of view, and they were stunned. I said, here's the way the events happened. They said, well, why did all these aliens end up in different parts of town? I said, if you were in a spaceship and the spaceship was going to crash, it had been blown apart, there's a hole in it, in this thing, and smoke's billowing out of it. For 5.5 hours, you're flying around the city. do you think you might want to drop some of your guys off? You may want to go down with the ship, you and your top guys, but you're going to drop some of these guys off. And I said, and a police officer saw one of them running in front of the road. He jumps out, chases it down, catches it. Within a month or so, he dies from contact with the being.
That's right.
The little girls didn't touch the guy, so they didn't die. Other firemen, who are also the local dog catchers, by the way, they came out and caught these guys and threw some ropes around them and everything, and danced and caught them. And later, when the ship did finally crash, there were military police and others there at the moment it crashed, because they're all over the area. And a guy was there, and he just drove out there, and he saw the whole thing. They made him leave the area and they had him scared to death. But that's when they got in the encounter with the captain of the ship, or whatever he was, whoever was in charge, who had some really big claws and scary-looking guy. And when they came in, he was ready to fight, and so they simply mowed him down. The story goes.
What advice do you give to somebody that is having encounters like I did in my room? What do you suggest? Do you fight them off? Do you get negative? Do you stay positive? How do you deal with it for it to never happen again?
If you choose to do something about it, or think that you would like to, you can write me at alienhunter.org, and go to the website there at alienhunter.org, and you click on Alien Hunter, and it'll email me. And I will send anyone for free self-defense techniques or things you can do to defend yourself, or perhaps get a piece of DNA from one of these little guys. So there's fun things you can do, even for children. I've got 2 cases I just got no more than a week ago. One child is 3 years old, the other one's 4. One's out of Chicago, and the other one's out of Louisiana. And the parents are freaking out completely. They don't know what's happening to their kids, but the kids are describing these abduction encounters in detail. And the 3-year-old's describing the device used to put little damage to little cuts and things on the child. And that's really upsetting the father.
Yes.
Because you don't know how to defend yourself. You can't protect your children. I mean, it's just horrible.
Right.
So the kids are describing this. So I'm going to show these kids how to have fun by defending themselves when they're with the alien. For instance, when that little guy comes there, and I don't care if he paralyzes you or not, and this is good for any little kid that's listening, or a parent that wants to help their kid, and they don't know what to do. All you need to do is sing a little, dab with your little child, memorize a little song. I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter, as long as it's nonsensical. The alien can figure it out. Like Mickey Mouse, M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S. It doesn't matter what the song is. And they sing it over and over and over in their head, in their mind. After a while, the alien will leave you alone because he can't take you, because he can't get past your thought process. And that's real important, to let little kids know that you can defend it, that even if it is a bad dream, just sing the song over and over and over until the dream goes away. At that point, they've finally learned how to defend themselves, step number 1.
What about kicking them in the crotch?
One of my abductees, a lady, had 2 kids. They threatened to get her children if she told Daryl any more information. And I told her, and I had an airline pilot who was taking hypnotherapy for me at the time. She was crying, said, "Please help me defend myself." I said, "Well, I really don't want to, because we're getting more physical evidence from your case and more intel than all of my abductees put together." And she cried and cried, and I said, "Okay, look, out of humanity, I have to do this." So I gave her a post-hypnotic suggestion to assault her captor. And there's a special way you do this. It's not with regular hypnosis. And the way I did it, she actually, her captor came up to her and, of course, did his thing. And she got to her, and then all of a sudden she began to give him commands. And to his shock and amazement, they worked. She tore half his eye cover off the first time. The second time, he came I showed her how to take control of him, and she physically grabbed him and tore his whole eye cover off. I was very proud of the lady.
Oh,
but what people don't understand, as long as they hold the upper hand, in other words, if you're so busy being in awe of them, or buying into their whoppers, or so busy being afraid or paralyzed, you can't do anything, then I guess you can't do anything.
Right.
If you want to do something else, you might try that.
Interesting. I'm just sitting here thinking about my own experience, and even though somehow after mine lasted for about 15 minutes, and somehow I was able to move. Once I was able to move, and I reached over and flipped on the lights, but for that first 15 minutes, I was completely vulnerable, man. It was a standoff, Daryl. It was a standoff, yes. Man. It was a standoff, and it was like I could tell the vibe was I was waiting, and I think how do I want to say this? For one of us to do something, that was the feeling that I had, but I couldn't move, and I just kept waiting for something to happen, and it just didn't. It was a total standoff, and it was pretty creepy. We're at the top of the hour. You want to take some phone calls?
Sure, please do.
All right, let's open up the phone lines for Derrel Sims, the alien hunter. 323-825-5045, 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. Let's see. When something like that does happen, by the way, where you do confront or you do show your will, does it end? Is the experience over? Do they come back?
They will often come back. In my case, I gave a post-it note suggestion to one of my abductees, an engineer who keeps getting taken all the time. Every year they come back and get him. I had him to blurt out and ask them, "Why don't you take Daryl anymore?" And he always said Daryl, which is not the correct way to pronounce my name. And they pronounced it correctly and said Daryl was uncooperative. Man, if that is the kettle calling the pot black.
Yeah, right. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Derrel Sims. Who's calling?
This is Ryan here.
Hi, Ryan. How are you tonight?
I'm doing okay. First of all, that story in Canada, I don't think there's anything to it. I don't think there was a crash. It was all promoted by this people that are known hoaxsters. Third phase of moon, don't trust them. If you hear them, don't trust them.
Okay.
They fake a lot of stuff, and they did a lot of research up there. Chris Rostowski, they've been doing drills up there for years in the snow. They're just running on snowmobiles back and forth, testing to be prepared and stuff. There's nothing to it. But Daryl, one question I had for you was, I'm up here in Washington State. Have you ever had any reports or cases up here in my area? I mean, it seems kind of dead up here. Have you had any abductions going on up here? I called you one time. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We do have, did have and do have abductions going on. Are still continuing. Families, a mother and who's alone with her son, and he's now grown up, and they're still having encounters. And I think he's going to write a book about his encounters now. But I've known them for probably close to 20 years now, and their events are quite real. She's one of the first few people originally that I had her check her son with a black light to see if these events were real. And she found 3 long fingers of on his leg where they had held him down. Held him down to the table, or I call it the slab myself. And his events were quite real, quite horrific. I mean, there are plenty of other evidences in his life, of course, in his memory. The kid is extremely intelligent and not a liar in any sense of the word, nor is she. And it's interesting, she's kind of a contactee, and he's more of the abductee type. So I found that rather interesting, and you'll see that. One buys into the rhetoric and the story, and the others do not.
Ryan, are you saying that you've had contact up there in Washington?
No, I haven't. I've done more research into this series of videos that happened and are controversial. I called you about that one time. No, I haven't had any experiences, but there's photographs and videos of aliens from that UFO, and it was filmed over the ocean, and you see. I'd have to call you after the show about it, Daryl. I called you one time about it.
Yeah, that was an incident. Was that the one in Turkey?
Right. And I'm telling you right now, that's the real deal. It has not been debunked. It's not faked. It's not staged. There's a group of witnesses there that I've got on video talking about it. A whole family witnessed it. There's videos. It goes on and on. The thing flies over the city. It's not faked, and I'm really getting to the point where I've been trying to I'm trying to tell people about this. I've called so many radio shows and talked to so many people trying to tell them about this, and I'm not getting anywhere. But at any rate, you see a mantis, and you see the gray standing up towards the face. There's a body laying there. It's not a human body. It looks like it could be one of these hybrids or something.
Yep. Well, welcome to the world of investigations. The burden is on us. It's not on. We have to make a case for it, and it's a tough thing to do out there, real or not. It makes no difference. To make a case flawless and infallible, it sounds like the case is pretty good. My biggest concern originally was one of the witnesses, primarily, and two, because I've known him to make up some lies. He just flat did, and he did it on national radio once because he told me so. And two is that that some of the biggest whoppers that ever came out on the UFO field came out of Turkey. And I love Turkey. Don't get me wrong. I've been there twice myself. And if this is in fact a good case, then it's good for two reasons. One is that even the liars that were there got fooled too, I guess, themselves. So good luck on your research, and I wish you the very best with it.
Well, I don't want to take too much time here. I'll call you off the air about it, Daryl. We could talk about it. It'd take up the entire show here. I had one more question, and then I'll get off the air here. Do you remember the case of the guy in Arizona? Is it true that the guy that apparently I'm talking about the guy that had the ranch there? You were on Coast to Coast about it. He apparently hit him with a machete.
He actually hit him with a sword. Yes, the reportedly invaded with a sword.
There was a rumor on the internet, and I don't know if this is true, because if it's on the internet, it's probably not true, but there was like some violence that happened. Did you guys get shot at? Was that true? Is that rumor true?
Well, I would put that in the big rumor mill, because the answer is no. Okay. I did have a couple of people show up at my abductee's home, and he felt like he was being bullied, and I got into it with him. He put them on the phone with me, and they identified themselves, and one of them said, "I'm ex-FBI," and I said, "And?"
Right, I remember this. Yes.
We're looking for your evidence. So that went south real quick. Well, I said, "Well, I'm ex-intelligence. What is that? What do you think that intimidates me?" And so I want to know what you're doing at my abductee's home without my permission, trying to get evidence that I have. They said, "Well, you got it all." And I said, "I did. Isn't that funny? I didn't leave anything for you."
You know what I see happening, Daryl? You know what I see happening? I'm going to get off the line here. Is that I believe that he's selling his property. So the next person that moves in there is going to go through the whole same thing again, and
they probably will.
Thank you for the call, Ryan.
Daryl, I'll call you off the air and tell you about that because it's the real deal. It's not a bunch of BS. I'll talk to you later about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Take it easy, Ryan.
Hey, Noric, say hi to Daryl.
Hey, Daryl. Man, I am freaking out.
Calm down, Noric. Calm down, my brother.
Oh, man. No, man, it's not about being on radio. It's about everything I've heard tonight. My palms are sweaty. I'm shaking. It's just too real.
Well, you know, I'm glad. Listen, Noric, I'm glad that you're talking with Daryl, and also, you know, I can put you in direct contact with Daryl after the show, but I'm glad that you two are talking now. So go ahead, ask Daryl some questions.
Well, I just wanted to just confirm, look, man, so I told my story the first time about a year ago on Jimmy's show because he wanted a ghost story, and that was my ghost story. And then later I started realizing, wait, this sounds more like an experience than a ghost. And so the more I thought about it, the more I started remembering these details. White, but mine was ashy white skin. Those square teeth, but a really big grin. And it was those square teeth, like sheep teeth, exactly like you said. And it would lean down over me and grin at me and stare eye to eye. And I was just paralyzed. I couldn't do anything. And when I guess I don't know how many times it happened, but basically one time I got so angry, I pushed it off of me and then it just disappeared. I don't know if it, maybe missing time and I just don't remember the whole thing, but it was gone when I just became very angry and pushed it off. But since then, and I can date that last experience of a real presence being in the room, I can date that to 2009. Since then, that fear that I felt, where it's just, it feels like paralysis throughout the body, like even my guts are being paralyzed, like something's grabbing onto everything, even from the inside of me, and holding me down. The only time I felt it since then is in nightmares, where this same presence, this feeling of this entity is in it scares me, and it's trying to scare me in my nightmares. And then I wake up feeling like I'm floating, vibrating back into my body. And I wake up, my chest, my heart's pumping, racing. So, okay, I really told you a really long story, but I just want to confirm that a lot of things that you said just hit home for me, and I am kind of freaking out. But my question is, because someone just tweeted me a little while ago that they might change strategy, and it occurred to me, wow, now I'm having these nightmares, and I fight them off in my nightmares, and then the nightmare changes, and once in a while, like once every 3 months, I'll have that fear feeling, the paralyzing fear feeling during the night. And I want to know, do they change strategies? Is that right? Or that time that I fought them off, is it over? Because I want it to be over. And in addition to that, my son is telling me these stories himself, and he's 8. So.
Stay with us, Noric. Stay with us. Go ahead, Daryl.
That's pretty awful. First of all, they do change strategies because some of their stuff gets pretty old, and you start figuring things out, and they'll change their screen memory basically, and they'll use often things from your consciousness to do that. There are people that swear they're seeing dead relatives in their events, and they're not dead relatives. It's the mimicking and manufacturing that imagery from your own consciousness. The thing with your son, I am concerned with, because kids generally don't make this kind of stuff up and don't lie. When you find kids sleeping with baseball bats, tying string around their ankles over the doors and windows, so if anything comes through there, it'll wake them up. So they get them with a hockey stick or a baseball bat, and I mean, it's off the charts, horrific for these kids to live like that. But again, if you want to defeat these enemies with these beings, these entities, in my view, and I encourage you to write me, and I'll be glad to instruct you and your son on some things to do. But there's some fun things to do too. It's not all just warfare, so to speak. It is in one sense, certainly. But for me, the war began at age 4 in 1952. That's the truth of my story. The war began for me at age 4. And I knew it, and I decided to do something about it, and I didn't have my dad and mom to help me because they would never believe me. I mean, I thank God for people like you where their kids can come tell them things like this and would actually be heard. My parents couldn't grasp this. They couldn't deal with it.
I want to ask both of you a question really quick. Noric, did you smell anything? You know, he was on your chest, and smiling. Was there an odor? And I'm going to throw that back to Daryl. Is there typically an odor in the room? I didn't smell anything, by the way. I'll say that, but
I didn't smell any. I mean, I can't remember smelling anything.
Okay.
I don't remember that. I just when I noticed that it was on me and sitting on me, and yeah, the skinny body and it's smaller than a regular sized person, and really uncomfortable the whole experience. But no, I don't recall any smell.
What about you, Daryl? Are there reports of smells? And did you smell anything?
There are reports of smells, and the smells generally are the odor of the entity if he's been doing apparently more activity, because he sweats or exudes some type of oil-like material that's fluorescent that'll show up on your skin if you check it with a black light, if he's touched you recently. And the smells often either on the carpet or around where they came from, if they touch clothing and this sort of thing, is kind of a musty smell. It's often described, if people are very sensory acute, they will notice they smell like rotten or decayed leather or rotten cardboard.
Interesting.
It's a real musty smell.
Yeah, musty, old. Like my grandmother's house.
Yes.
Okay, I got you. Hey, Noric, any other questions for Daryl?
No, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you and Daryl need to get hooked up. All right. Thank you, Noric.
All right. Yeah.
All the best, man. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, about a year ago, we had a ghost story program, and just having different callers call in telling us about that, and he called in that night with that story, and it was like he said, it was originally a ghost story, but the more that he's listening to different experiencers tell their stories on air, it feels a little different to him today.
It would, because the signature of the ghost phenomena, the signature of a demonic, the signature of an angelic, and the signature of an alien are all four distinctly different.
Interesting. Let's grab another call. Hi, Dino. Say hi to Daryl.
Hi, Daryl. Hi, Jimmy.
Hi, Dino.
Last time we heard you on the program, Daryl, this is wonderful, all the things you're doing for folks, but I'd like to hear more. You have a unique personality and a unique take on this, and I like the fact that you stand up and fight for things. What other advice can you give to us about how to resist abduction without our permission, and a little bit more about these beings who you say no one else has ever told you that they've met the round-eyed beings that you met?
Okay.
Thank you, Dino.
Let me clarify that. First of all, the beings that I described that no one else has ever described, there have been people describe the small gray-type being or white-like being with perfectly round eyes. The amount of people are small compared to those that look at the other Hollywood version eyes, the elliptical eyes. The answer to the other half of that question is the beings that I never described to anyone is the question that Jimmy asked earlier in the show, and it goes into my last event, which was quite violent, and 7 of the entities showed up, and these are the things I leave out of my details on purpose, because as soon as I describe them, I guarantee you, and people have already told me, I had the exact same thing, and they describe them, and it's not even close. And I laughed, and they said, well, what's so funny? I said, they weren't aliens. So I know you're making it up. Like, they had long white robes, and they were at this big grand table doing the big one, and give me a break. Go feed that line to somebody else. Wrong. So yes, we do hold back a lot of stuff. Yeah, and there are ways you can defend yourself.
That's why I respect you so much, and I do want to get on the defending the self thing real quick. Let's take another call. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Derrel Sims.
Hey, Mr. Sims. Hi, Jimmy. This is Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
Mr. Sims, I have a question about the blues.
Okay.
Muddy Waters.
What do you know about them?
Muddy Waters. Eric Clapton. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Are we talking about Stevie Ray Vaughan, Tammy?
Jimmy.
Okay, Tammy.
No.
Now, when you say the blues, what exactly?
They're the blue aliens.
Okay, Daryl.
I'm with you. Go ahead.
All right. Have there been abductions with those? That you've heard of?
Okay, we've heard of all kinds of contacts with different types of entities. The answer to your question is yes. A lady, approximately, good night, I guess she would have to be, I've seen her at conferences for 20 years, and she was probably around close to 50 then, so she's about 70 the last time I saw her, and she was on an auction model, dragging it around, and she asked me if I would be interested in helping her do some regression, and I said, sweetie, why do you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do all that? You're a contactee. And she said, yes, I know. I said, but what if your events show something different? Well, she said, oh, but it won't. And anyway, long story short, the blue guy is her best friend. She thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. And he did abduct her all her life and told her that he was going to tell her the big secret. He called her the Johnny Appleseed of his work. And she's been telling everybody all her life, like he told her to, that the aliens here to say the planet takes sails on hold and do all these wonderful things, none of which they have done to date. In at least 6,000 years, if not 60,000 years, however long you want to count time. They haven't done that, and they don't intend to, because that's not part of the program. But the fact is, there was a blue being that she described in detail, and this may rattle your cage a bit, Jimmy. So I finally agreed. I was speaking at the International Forum for New Science on implants. First presentation I did on implants, 1963, I believe it was, early 64. And I finally agreed to do this with her, and because she's going to die. I mean, it's a matter of time before she's going to lose it. And in the event, she started describing all the stuff and all these wonderful experiences with Mr. Blue Man. I mean, it was wonderful. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, to our shock and amazement, Mr. Blue Man showed up in her consciousness. And he did not like it that I was finding out about her little blue experiences. And I said, well, let's see. And Valer Tarazinski, the physicist, was sitting in the room with me, freaking out completely. He said, oh my God, is that thing listening to us? I said, he is. And he's as real as, I said, I think that he is. He started, he got real mad at her. She said, I've never seen him angry before, never. And I said, why do you think that is? And she said, I don't know. I said, well, would you ask him a question for me? And of course, I popped one of my big ones out on him, the big question. And boy, he got so mad. She said, he left. Why is he angry with you? Just asking a question. I said, well, that's a real good question. You might want to think about yourself. And she cried when she finally figured it out that he had been hoodwinking her for at least, well, I guess close to 70 years.
Oh, wow.
And she couldn't figure out. It broke her heart. And I didn't want her to do that. I begged her not to do it.
Right.
Because I said, if you're happy with this, sweetie, go on with it. Don't a good night. You know, why in the world would you want to? Anyway, she did, and it just broke her heart. He'd been lying to her all along.
Wow. Wow.
And the entity was, I was convinced it's one of the few times I actually believe the entity was present and actually coming through the lady's consciousness, telling her, ordering her to stop, make him stop this. And she said, why is he so upset? And then when I asked him the big question, he hit the fan when I got on to him about her lying. Is what been lying to her all this time. Tell her the big truth. Tell her exactly what the truth is like right now. Oh, he hit the fan. He was so angry. I guess you're not supposed to ask the right questions.
Well, you know, and that's why I respect you, Daryl. Well, that's one of many reasons, but now back to, Tammy, stay with us because I want to throw this out to Daryl. Is there one of the 7 that is responsible for the majority of abductions?
This is real important for your listeners to understand. If they don't understand or get or like anything I say tonight, please listen to this carefully. These guys are amoral. They have no morals. If they're told to make you love them, to buy into their concept, which makes you a contactee, they will. If they're told to scare you because the other program won't work on you, they will, with equal enthusiasm. If they're told to mutilate a cow, they will do so with equal enthusiasm.
Sure.
If they're told to mutilate a human being, they'll do the same thing because they are simply under orders and direction of someone else other than them. Whoever made, manufactured, hatched, or cloned them is in charge. They're not.
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example. You go out on your back porch and you're going to have a little dinner party and you've got some flies and some insects flying around. What do? You break out the can of insecticide, right? And you spray your back porch. Now, how does an insect think look at us? You know, oh man, they just want to kill it. They don't care. They're just spraying. They're just killing. They don't. It's sort of the same thing, isn't it? It's that we don't have any morals at that point when we're out spraying insecticide, do we? No. Am I making? Do you understand what I'm saying, Tammy? Do you understand what I'm saying, Daryl?
Yeah, I do. The reason I asked Daryl is about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. Something fell out of the sky. Within the next 3 days, we had everybody here in Florence, Oregon, the FBI, the CIA, the National Guard, running all through our woods. I took my dog for a walk. I never seen this thing, but he told me that my dog went nuts. This was about 8 blocks from our house. Bandit went absolutely apeshit. I just crazy. And something told me, keep your dog calm. We don't want to hurt you. Anyway, I kept going back, and I told Mark, and Mark thought I was absolutely nuts. I mean, headlight in the deer eyes when I was telling Mark about it. And one night we're out watching the Merced showers, and I looked at him and I said, Mark, my friend, he gave me a name that's similar to like Raju, but that's not it. I said, he's leaving tonight. He's saying goodbye. This thing flew over, flashed 3 times, and was gone. And that's why I asked you about blues. Because that's what he told me it was.
Interesting.
And I don't know.
Thank you so much, Tammy. Give my best to Mark.
All right. I definitely will. Thank you, Mr. Sims.
Thank you, ma'am. And if these guys wouldn't bug anybody, we wouldn't have to spray them down.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? And what is it? What is it with the color blue and aliens? Not skin color. I mean lights in the room, lights outside. What is it with the color blue? I've heard it with abduction experiences when they've been inside of a craft. They see the color blue. What is going on? I
call it the blue light special, and And basically what that means to me is when people see a blue light and they've been in these experiences before, they really freak. I mean, they realize what's coming at that point. You know, we're done. There's a therapeutic technique in hypnotherapy called the gray room. And I beg people that I teach hypnotherapy to, don't ever use this if that person's an abductee. They won't like it. The room it's gray. Don't use that technique or you're going to bring on a phobia.
Oh, wow. You know, Adam Gorightly, I don't know if you know Adam, but he just tweeted, and this is an excellent question, too. We love Adam. And if you've never checked out his writing, you should check it out, Daryl. He's always on the money. But he says, what if the ETs are us? Our own consciousness reflected back on itself. What if we are our own enemies?
Oh, I love thinking about fun stuff like that. I really do. And there's some huge problems with that concept. And I do like thinking about stuff like this. It's fun to think about. The problem is my consciousness looks like several of those entities. And my consciousness quit looking like those entities and took the form of 5 other entities that don't show up in any UFO literature whatsoever. And my consciousness, whatever that was back then, in my last event, came in and kicked my rib cage in and broke it.
Right.
My doctor found that out at the VA hospital. My consciousness went in and cut my nasal septum, a large circle in the middle of it, and gave me an implant in my nasal passage. So my consciousness is doing a lot of weird stuff to me that I don't agree with.
Right.
I'm going to kick somebody's kundini if they do that again. That ain't going to happen.
Right. Yeah. You know, there's one thing that I say it often, Daryl, when I listen to somebody's experience or experiences, all I can do is relate to what has happened to me, both the sightings that I've had in the sky. That's the first thing. And the second, my little sleep paralysis thing. And I know what the frig happened to me in my room. I know what I saw. I wasn't imagining it. I was wide awake. And that's the end of the story. I don't want to hear anybody else say anything. I wasn't asleep. I don't want to, I've never had anything else happen in my life. I've never hallucinated. I've never had anything strange, nothing. I've never had the sleep paralysis that I know of experience happen again. But the one thing that happened to me happened. It's not my imagination. It happened. The dude blinked. Okay, he blinked. I don't remember round eyes or definitions because the room was dark. First off, and second, I couldn't move my head, so I couldn't get focused and take a good clear look to see for those kind of details. But he blinked. That's not my imagination. I'm looking at this guy. Anyway, I wanted to get back. There's a couple of things I want to point out here on Twitter. Bob says he woke up, and I think he says earlier that this happened 2 weeks ago. He said, I woke up with 3 red marks on my arm in a pyramid shape that was not there the day before. What do you make of something like that when somebody says something like that?
When I was at the UFO Minds conference, I did a demonstration. Besides in the middle of my presentation showing fluorescence on people, I went and did a demonstration on one of my abductees that I'd met for the first time there, and I put some fluorescence on her in different locations, different types of events, procedural marks, which were obviously done with a device, and casual contact marks, which are done from them casually touching you. And in the demonstration, it was just a landslide of people that loved it because it was, number one, it was beautiful, what it showed. And one of the things I showed was 3 little tiny, they look like little tiny insect bites. 3 of them like in a triangular formation. But when you fit them with a black light, if it's an alien that's actually stuck you with a needle, often the material they injected into you will fluoresce, and it'll show when they pull the needle of it out, and if you hit it with a black light. So that would be one thing I would do, is check yourself with a black light immediately after you've had a dream or any experience.
Do you really want people to see something? I mean, what goes through? I would have a heart attack. You know,
Yeah,
if I would have,
usually.
yeah, yeah, right? No kidding. I mean, if I would have,
they run, they freak.
If I would have woke up that night, threw a black light on me, and I've got handprints on me, no, sir.
No way.
Oh, man. How many, I wanted to ask you this earlier. How many fingers, what is real and what is not when it comes to this? Or is it something you even want to disclose?
Depends on the model. And I use the word model, not race. Model. Some models have 3 long fingers, and I love people, they say, oh, they're aliens from other worlds. They came from whatever planet. And I said, how do you know that? Well, that's what he said. I said, if they've lied to every culture that's ever been on the planet since the beginning of the time they contacted us, what makes you think they started telling the truth when they got to you? Why are you so special? As the bottom line is that, how do you build a spacecraft with 3 fingers and no opposing thumb? How do you fly a spacecraft with 4-inch-long claws?
With your mind.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
that sounds good. A mind that from an insect that was harvested off the planet Earth and manufactured into something else. No, that's possible, absolutely. But the question to me becomes, as I tell them, it's not a matter of, it's a matter of deception. It's not a matter of it can't be done. The issue is somebody else built the craft for them, or whatever it is. They built it for their use. And when you understand that concept and that they're manufactured, hatched, cloned, or got here some other way, if somebody else was in charge, that changes the dynamic quite a bit. It goes from we're helpless and we don't know anything and we're pond scum. Really? Let's say we were just barely pond scum, and we just barely made it out of the cosmic soup, and now we're crawling around doing whatever we are. We're so-called humans now. If that's true, somebody came a long, long, long way to visit pond scum.
Right, for
the
nothing.
The fact is, there's an ancient saying that says you were created wonderfully. It comes from the Bible. And I'll tell you what, I think somebody understands that infinitely better than we do, and they come here to find out what it is. You have it, and they don't.
Did you have communication at all with your encounters?
I did.
And?
The communication, in the one case, I was taken at age 12 from my home. It was at night, and I saw a very bright light coming toward me rapidly. Next thing I know, I was inside a circular room. I guess it was a craft. I don't know what it was. But it was a circular room. There was the same cosmic skinhead and the boss, the doctor type, that looks just like him but bigger. And he's looking at me, and they try to do things like switch you off so you won't hear them. What they don't realize is you can switch yourself back on so you can hear them. And I'm listening, and as I listen to them, I break out and start crying. I can't figure out, why would you do that to a little boy like me? I'm only 12 years old. I never harmed anybody. And I can't believe they're going to do this stuff to me. My doctor at the VA hospital asked me, he's an ENT. He just back and he says, where'd you get that circular hole inside your nasal passage? I lied. I told him, I don't know. He said, well, somebody cut it.
Wow.
Well, of course they did. Well, duh. It happened when I was 12 years old. So finally, the next doctor came along and asked those questions. I told her the whole story. My primary care physician at the VA hospital. I said, I look at you and I see that blue, rattly, stupid look on your face. Oh, this guy's got to be certifiably nuts. And I've got cardiovascular surgeons, brain surgeons, and people you can't even carry their luggage. They're so higher than you in the medical field. They don't think I'm nuts. I have to wonder about you. I said, you asked and I told you. If you can't deal with it, sorry about that.
I had okay, check this out. I'm going to share this story with you. It's a fun one. I don't know if I've ever told the story on the air, but my dentist, and his name is JJ, a very cool guy. My dentist, one day I'm in his office, and his mom was his receptionist a couple of days a week, and she's German, right? 100% German, both sides. Still has the accent. She's probably 75 years old. Cool lady, too. Real cool. And one day I stroll in to the office, and I know that I've got to wait for a few minutes, and I had in my hand a copy. I had the book, the Bill Burns book, Colonel Corso, Day After Roswell, and hardcover. And I got that in my hand, and I sit down, and I'm reading it. And she says, Roswell. I said, yeah. She goes, oh, yeah. I was abducted, right? And I was like, wait a minute. She just came straight. She came straight out. And this is what she said. She said during World War II, she was 5 years old and living in London. And the air raids would come in, every night, and they would have to go down into a bomb shelter below the house. That the entire neighborhood would go into this bomb shelter, and it would be packed full of people, right? It was packed. And she said one night they're down there, air raids are going off, and it's packed, and everybody is sleeping. They had been there all night, and she wakes up, and there's a little alien guy in there with her, takes her by the hand, walks her up the stairs, and they disappear, and she's gone. And then she doesn't remember anything. She sort of remembered being taken into another room, and she thinks it was on a ship. She sort of remembers that. What she then remembers is the alien, the ET, who had her by the hand, took her back through the house, opened up the bomb shelter door. She was 5 years old, couldn't do it. Opened it up for her and let her walk down the stairs. She goes down the stairs, and everybody is awake, freaking out, wondering where she had been all night. Mm-hmm. Now, now this is a lady, straight face, man, straight face, looking right at me, telling me this story. And it kind of changed me. Now, there is no question about the existence and her experience and everything else. And she's totally a cool lady, totally normal, total professional and straightforward. But she shared that experience with me. And so when I hear things like this, like your story, now that was in London during World War II. And this is before Roswell. This is before the alien, Mars attacks movies of the 1950s. This was in 1943, 1942 when Germany was still bombing London. Pretty crazy story, isn't it?
It is, and capped that one very well, beautifully, in my opinion. A lady came to me one time and started telling me about her experience, and I said, well, that, as I always do, tell me about it. And she's an elderly lady, totally truthful. I was very impressed with her. She was Jewish. And I said, well, if you don't mind me saying this, because it's rare for us to find people that are elderly telling these stories like yours, can you tell me anything else that might support the truth of your story? And she rolled up her arm, her sleeve on her, she pulled back her sleeve on her coat and showed me the numbers on her arm from the camps. I said, oh my.
Right.
She was in the death camps when she was a little girl when she was taken.
Ooh. What did she,
wow.
What was the experience?
Well, she just talked about, she didn't know a great deal about it, and I honestly did not want to take her back to any of those events again unless she wanted to do it strictly as a therapeutic modality, because that woman's already been through enough. From a child, her parents, of course, her parents there, everybody died in the camps. But there were two people I've met so far that were in the camps. And one abductee actually drew a picture of a guy who was on the ship with her, and she drew his number on his arm in one of the drawings of somebody who was in the camps. There was an abductee on the craft.
Wow.
Yeah, that was wild. I mean, that was just wild.
Yeah, she told me that her parents, everybody that was down in the shelter freaked out because she had been missing all night, and they turned to her and said, well, my friend, this guy came in and,
right.
and took me out and we left. Where'd you go? I don't know. Where were you? I don't know. I don't remember. And the next thing they knew, she's walking down the stairs, and it was a bomb shelter door that she couldn't open.
She could never open that.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I'm telling you right now, when she told me about, and she said, well, I said, well, what do you? Well, it was an alien. It was a UFO. I was abducted and I was taken somewhere, and I don't remember where. I remember being in a room. I don't know if it was a ship or not. But we left the house and we came back to the house, and we're talking about bombs outside, bombing on London. A 5-year-old is not going to walk out and get out. And it was a really fascinating story. Again, from a lady that was, probably, I'm going to guess and say in her 70s at that time. No reason to lie to me. I'm just I'm a patient. I'm her son's patient. It was just a fascinating story. It was unbelievable. And then this is the thing, and this is the weird part about the story. I never got the book back. I gave her the book, and I never got it back. I was on my third reading of it, to be honest with you, and but I gave her the book, and it was really funny. I never got the book back, and that was what 20. Oh, wow, when did that book come out? 1995, 1996, something like that. So there you go. Never got the book back. I've asked him about it so many times over the years when I remember it. Hey, dude, can I get my Roswell book back? Well, So there you go. All right.
Do we have time for a war story?
Yeah, man. Give me one.
I got this will cap everything we talked about tonight. This story I'm fixing to tell you briefly took me probably 2 months to get. I mean, it took like a word or a part of a sentence at a time to get this out of the sniper. It was Vietnam. And the sniper, of course, he's got his spotter there. Their primary mission is to take out NVA officers. So they're looking for NVA officers to shoot and to kill them. And as they do, then, of course, everybody scatters. They don't have any officers there to tell them what to do.
Right.
So the spotter says, I got him. And he said, where's he at? And so he said, you're not going to believe this. And he said, I got my scope on it, my night vision. And he said, are you seeing what I'm seeing? He said, that's impossible. And I said, what were you looking at? He said, what we were both looking at is an NVA officer, which I'm obviously going to take out, and all these little guys in pajamas, basically, standing around. And I said, where is everybody armed? He said they were all armed with AK-47s. I said, okay. What was wrong with that picture? He said, the little bald-headed, bug-eyed creature standing in the middle of all of them. I said, I want to ask you something really important. Who was in charge of that meeting? He said, there was no question the little bug-eyed thing was. He said, I don't know anything about aliens, and I don't care about them, and I don't believe in it. And he said, but I've watched you for quite a while, and I think you're truthful. I think you're a patriot soldier and all that, just like him. And he said, you're you volunteered in Vietnam time and all that. And I said, I did. And he said, well, I'm going to tell you this. I said, what did you do? He says, the only kill we made that we never recorded.
Say that again?
I said,
say that again?
In their log, they have to keep records of all the kills they make.
Right,
who
right.
they shot, what they did. He said, I zeroed in on him, and I said, I blew alien hit, whatever that thing was, I blew it all over everybody. I said, as shocked as everybody was, I'm sure that NBA officer was more shocked than anybody because he wasn't dead. And he said, I'm sure he was. He said, they are scattered like a bunch of rats at that point, and that was the end of that. But I said, would you do me a favor and talk to some of your other sniper buddies and see if anyone else has had a like experience? And he came back and said he found 2 others that had similar experiences. Now that is pretty remarkable. In fact, I was telling that at the dinner party one night. Somebody just happened to warn us something unusual, and Stan Friedman was sitting across the table from us, and he said, would you please tell that again? I've never heard anything like that in my life.
Right.
And anyway, so I told the story again, but it took months to get this out of the guy. I mean, he was very reticent to even tell it, period. Only if I'd never used his name or anything like that. And I said, you can forget that. I will never mention your name to anybody, because that's not relevant to the story. But anyway, there's 2 less of them out there simply because they got in the wrong direction of somebody using the night vision.
And they couldn't log it. It's not that they didn't, but
you could never. You better not.
Right.
If you want to stay in the sniper business, you better. You're going to end up in a rubber gun squad if you start telling stories like that.
Right. We're shooting aliens. The North Vietnamese are cohorting with ET, and we took out ET instead of the officer and logged that. Yeah. Wow, that's
There's no way that story would work. But that thing was in charge of. He had total possession of everybody there. It was definitely in charge.
And with
the last one.
Oh, go ahead.
The last one was a man met me in Denver at a conference, and he waited for like an hour for all these people to get out of the way so he could finally talk to me. He said, Mr. Sims, I didn't come here to the conference he said, I don't know anything or care about UFOs. I don't care about any of this. He said, but I have listened to you before, and I believe you're a good man. And I want to tell you something. He said, I'm a sight hunter. And when I hunt, when I raise that rifle, I don't miss. I'm on it. I said, tell me what happened. And so I'm coming up over this hill, and just as I get to the top of the hill, I look up, and I can't believe what I'm seeing. So I raised that rifle, instantly shot and fired, and heard the report hit the creature. And then it disappeared. I said, what did you shoot? He said, you're going to think I'm nuts. I said, you just tell me what you saw. He said, 7-foot praying mantis being. I shot it. He said, I'd just like to know what you're thinking was what happened. I said, if the story's true, the craft is probably on the other side of the hill there, can't see you, doesn't know you're coming. The creature's probably finished with whoever he's messed with or done whatever he's done, abduction or whatever. He's coming up the whole hill waiting to get beamed out, and all of a sudden he looks up, sees you see him at the same time. They see you too late. You fire, hit him, and they're beaming him out of there as fast as they can, and all they end up with basically is a 7-foot dead bug on her craft.
Right.
You got him.
Right.
Good shot.
Right.
I said, he's just a toaster. Don't take it personally. He's not any kind of sentient being that you imagine. I said, any abductee out there that's got a brain that's ever done any interaction with these beings will tell you the same thing. They all say the same thing. Oh, my God, they have no soul. Why they say that, I don't know. That's up to you to decide. But the fact is, they often say that. What you're shooting basically is a bug. It's just a smart, very, very smart one. With IQ probably about 160 to 180.
How is it in your experience in the military? How are things reported like this, or are they not so much the sniper stuff, but anything, is there protocol with dealing with off-world beings? Is there anything that you're taught, or is there anything that you're told, or how is it reported?
The case was reported to me not long ago. The case happened years ago, but it was by the soldier who was actually there. And you've heard the story before from other cases, but this is a real interesting case because of the witness. The witness later becomes not only a soldier, but later becomes in life a retired assistant attorney general. Now, this is a very credible guy.
Uh-huh.
And the UFO comes over the nuclear base, freaks everybody completely out, lights all the nukes up, scares everybody half to death. And long story short, the UFO finally disappears. Everybody calms down. Next few days is unbelievably hectic. They're all called in and told. This is after the little military, or whoever they are, men in black, and they do exist, show up and with absolute impunity and immunity walk around asking every question in the world they want, and they can, and they get away with it. And you answer the questions, and after that's all done, after they, whoever they are, leave, then you're herded into a room and they tell you it's, the best way to describe this is kind of like moonburn, swamp gas, and stuff like that. Does anybody have any questions? Because if you don't, of course, that's the end of your career.
Right.
If you want to stay in the military, you don't want to be prosecuted under military law, you keep your mouth shut. Because it didn't happen, and you know it didn't.
And that's the end of it. And if you want your pension, if you want your pension, that's
exactly right.
I got to thank you so much, Daryl. What are you doing next? Are you speaking anywhere? What's in your future?
Oh, I've got several conferences that we're looking at. I love conferences. I'd like to go to a Joshua Tree conference. I hear that's a really good one. I've never been there before. I'd like to take my implant box and evidence box up there and some of our presentations, let some people hear what the business end of abductions is like. I would love to do that. I've got some TV work that I'm wanting to do here in the very near future. It's all other contracts. There's nothing I can say about it other than it looks like it's going to be golden. I just love what I do.
Yeah, if you want to go out to Contact in the Desert, I didn't know that you wanted to make it out there. If you're free, I could straighten that out for you.
Anytime they're ready, I will be there in a minute.
Oh, I would love to have you hang out with us out there. We're going to be broadcasting that Friday night from there.
Fantastic.
And that would be wonderful if you could come hang out with all of us and the Fate or Nots, and we had a really good time there last year. It's a no joke conference in that it's very large. There's so many people there. It's not like there's one room where everybody's speaking in one room. No, there's different things going on in different large halls all day. They have a huge campground, and it's so cool. It's thousands. It's just an amazing, amazing event. And I didn't even think about that. You're right. Yeah, you know what? I'll talk to you about that tomorrow. I'll get that straightened out.
Very good. Very good, my friend. Love it. And you're the best of the best. Don't let anybody tell you different. And whatever the paying you, just not enough. Not want to complain to management right now.
The check is in the mail, Daryl. I promise.
Of course, it's discretion here to the bank.
All the best, my brother, and I can't wait to see you out in Contact in the Desert, and to get you back on the show at any point. And I can't wait to see you again here in LA. Thank you so much.
Very good, sir.
Derrel Sims, everybody. Thank you. That's why I do this show. Man, I got to take a break. I'll be back right after this. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. Thank you, Derrel Sims, live from Tejas, Dallas, Texas. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll be back right after this.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio.
Hi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black. Had to go hit the little boy's room. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Derrel Sims. Tomorrow night is Fader night. Puxley just tweeted. You can follow us on Twitter, by the way, at JChurchRadio. Puxley just tweeted. He's over in the UK. He says, what about the famous abduction in New York witnessed by two people in a taxi, one a senior UN rep? Actually, if I remember correctly, and that was Linda, I can't think of her last name. She was taken out of her window, high-rise building. There was a craft out in the sky. Beam came in her window, sucked her out the window, and away she went. Reportedly, down below was what do you call it? A line of cars from the UN. Traffic was stopped, and I believe that was not a senior. I think that was the head of the UN that was in the car, and his bodyguards also witnessed everything. That's that case. I'm brain freezing right now. That's the way it goes at the end of a 3-hour show. But that's what that case is. Linda. Oh, man, her name is right on the tip of my tongue. But there you go. Sorry for the glitch. Our software shut down at the beginning of the show, and everything stopped. And I didn't catch it. We had to reset everything. I'm not too sure what is posted now and how the replay is going to be. I've got to go and look at that. But we can also maybe do a little fancy editing and put the front half of the show. Our recording software, everybody, ran constant, so everything is there. We'll just have to, do some fancy editing and splice everything back together, and we'll have everything consistently up, and we can replace this file up. I'll check this out as soon as I sign off here. So tomorrow night, Fader night, I think we're going to have a special co-host with us tomorrow night that's going to be taking your calls all night for Fader night. I'm trying to line that up. I worked on it today, and I think it will happen tomorrow night. So Fader night tomorrow night, open lines all night, and I think you're really going to enjoy who I'm going to have hanging out with us and co-hosting tomorrow night. With that, thank you, Derrel Sims. It was another amazing night. I got to tell you, I'm just like a little kid in a candy store doing this show every single night. Guests like Derrel Sims, absolutely amazing man of integrity. Thank you, Daryl. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm. Thank you, Hilton. Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fadey by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Music by Doug Aldridge. Intro by Spaceboy. Spaceboymusic.com. Tomorrow night we're going to roll some more Spaceboy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Tomorrow night is Fader night. Special guest will be co-hosting with us. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Everybody be safe. See ya.